All right, everybody, welcome on in. It is Saturday. We have begun the year of Mike. I'm never gonna stop streaming. We're going on to the Hassan Plus schedule, which is I'm never gonna stop streaming. I'm basically streaming every day. The year of Mike. The midterms are an important year. I'm looking at politics all day anyway, so it's like fuck it. Why not? I mean, it's only I stream in the morning, right? Like, what do I do on a weekend? I still wake up at the same time, and then I'll go and like read Twitter or a book or something, or watch video, like, you know what I mean? Listen to a podcast. It's like, why am I even doing that? I'm constantly preparing and learning about politics anyway. After I get off the stream, I do that anyway. So like, I don't see why 7 days a week isn't my new schedule. You know, at least maybe I'll take a break. You know, I do occasionally like taking rot days. You know, it is important for you to take rot days, but in this rough and tumble world that we live in, no breaks. Why should I take a break? If you guys aren't taking breaks, why should I take breaks? Biden's proctologist, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. Mike, you are overtaking us. I don't even want, no. It's not about overtaking any other content creator. It's more about, you know, it's more about the projects that I want to work on. You know, and the bigger I am, the better I do, the more projects I can do in the real world. This is what I'm realizing, is that I've got to get a lot more subscribers on YouTube. I need to actually connect with real life politics. And that's it. Like, that's really, and if basically I want this to be a stream where we're doing real shit. And you know, there really isn't, other than Hassan, you know, and a few other people that we like, you know, it's not, I feel like there's too many people that think of streaming as a way to get famous themselves or make money for themselves, and they have the veneer of being progressive or left wing, and it's really not. They don't really care about it that much, you know. That's really the end of it. Since I learned about you from Hassan, I'm consuming over 10 hours of political content every day. Hell yeah. You have I can't reach Hassan's level, but I certainly can. I could double from here. I think that's when we start to hit the like maximum of what I could possibly do. That's probably about the maximum, but maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. I think Hassan has watched one of these guys' videos. It might be interesting. Hutch and the limits of Hassan bad liberalism. So chat, I own Hutch. I own Hutch completely. He is my little bitch. He apparently tried to watch the video of me and Hassan. He watched my video on my stream. And he didn't even try. It was actually, honestly, I don't even understand how you can see him act like that and then think that he has anything to say. I'll show you the clip. I'll show you the stream. Basically, he started to distract himself talking about how he doesn't floss, and then he's bald, and then people were telling him that he needs to use like shampoo or some sort of like scalp treatment, and he like went off a tangent for a half an hour about how bald and disgusting he is with his hygiene. And then he just gave up and said, I guess Mike knows more than me about this. I'm not even I give up. And it's like, yeah, because I was talking about something real. Did you accidentally try to talk about politics on your politics stream? Let's just bring it up. It's very important to understand that this is what people like Hutch are like. Right? Like, it's an embarrassment, right? I think it was this one, right?
Everyone online is becoming Chinese.
It's just him watching videos of me, and then him watching videos, I guess, of Caroline and Taylor Lorenz. I mean, like, god damn, dude, like, legitimately, why are you here? It's an embarrassing. Hold on, let me see if we could go. Okay, wait. He quit. When did he quit?
Bullshit. We do have H3 versus Benny Johnson on Piers Morgan, and we also have the Soy Pill versus Michael Knowles. You know what? Let's start with the Taylor Lorenz one, then we'll watch the Michael Knowles one.
Guys, you're watching the Michael Knowles one.
But okay, you know what, guys? I really don't know a lot about stock buybacks, so I don't really see the value of watching this video. I have nothing to add to this. I defer to Mike on this one. He seems to be an expert.
For the past 7 years, this guy has entertained every slanderous, defamatory statement about me and Hassan, boosted it to his platform completely. I make a video of where his big daddy Destiny and I debated by highlighting exactly why he's a fucking pseudo-intellectual failure. It has me in it. It has Hassan in it. He can't make through 10 minutes before having to tap out, and say that we're experts. Well, maybe you should just shut the fuck up about everything, man. And it's like, you're a fucking moron. You're legitimately a moron. I did get into a debate with him, and I was very nice. It was at the beginning of the Biden administration chat. And I said that based on the policies that Biden enacted when he came into office, he was going to be copying Donald Trump's immigration policy. So in 2021, I had a debate with him because I was very frustrated over what the policy details of what Joe Biden was enacting as he came into office. And I debated him about that. And he tried to argue that, no, it was a lot better under Biden, and Biden is doing his best. But by the end of the Biden administration, they were trying to enact explicitly the Republican Party's immigration policies. And he was saying that was good. So he went from debating me that, no, Joe Biden isn't trying to enact immigration policies, all the way to, actually, that's good. And I mean, honestly, if you, like, what a fucking embarrassment. He still says it like in this smug tone, like you're full of shit. I mean, like, it's because he's a fucking dumb piece. Most liberals legitimately are like him. Most liberals are like him in the sense that if you know more than them, they try to do this thing where they're like, you're kind of a nerd for knowing that. You're kind of like uncool for knowing that. Like, that's their go-to. Their go-to is to be like, to act smug, like they're right about everything. And then the moment you start like proving them wrong with a really well thought out, well-sourced argument, they start to try to do this social game where they're like, oh my God, you're so uncool for knowing that. Also, I remember the vibes here in general had a twinge of optimism up to the point they officially killed the BBB, which signaled we were never getting anything good from Biden. Also, you say that, but it's another piece of evidence that my analysis of politics is fucking perfect. Because the moment they split up BBB with the bipartisan infrastructure bill and then the other bill, I told you they're never going to do anything. And that was the end of the Biden administration. And they're going to have no major victories. And guess what? They had no major victories, and I was completely correct. That was in 2021. I was able to see the moves they were making in 2021 and tell you what was going to happen for the next 3 years. And that exactly happened. I don't think people are really understanding how good that is. All right, what else are we talking about today besides making fun of Hutch? The Europeans are kind of like taking people out over the Epstein shit. They're kind of like taking people out. Like the ambassador to the United States was all over the Epstein files from the UK. And they're like, they stripped him of his titles. Like he was a lord. They like stripped him of his lord title. They fired him. They like investigated his house. He's been kicked out of the House of Lords. He was fired from his job. In the UK, former ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, who said he was wrong to believe Epstein following his conviction and continue his association with him afterwards, has emerged as a millstone around British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's neck. While Starmer never actually met Epstein, some are calling for his resignation over his appointment of Mandelson. The Prime Minister publicly apologized Thursday to Epstein's victims. I'm sorry, Starmer said. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mendelson's lies and appointed him, and sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. And like, the reason why this is happening, by the way, is because he is a lib left, not live left. He's a centrist liberal, Starmer. And so all the right-wing Murdoch media is going after him for the Epstein shit. So in the US, all the Murdoch media is downplaying Epstein to the maximum possible degree. But in the UK, they're amplifying it. You almost have to be impressed with the cynicism. What legal options are there in the US with the federal government just going to try to cover all this up? Can New York prosecute people? Of course they could. New poll of European opinions of America. Oh my God. Opinion toward the USA is the most negative has been in Western Europe since YouGov started tracking in 2016. Yeah. Like, honestly, Donald Trump is reviving the left everywhere. Even centrists are starting to get a little bit of an extra boost. Europe can prosecute if there aren't such pieces of shit. Oh, yeah, totally. Abolish ICE is now breaking 50%. Abolish ICE is the majority position. For the first time ever, the CivQ's Abolish ICE tracker shows 50% are in support of abolishing ICE. It has risen from 41 support on January 1st to now 50% support today. I mean, like, that's, ladies and gentlemen, like, and this is without the Democratic Party saying anything. This is purely grassroots sentiment, social media sentiment. And ladies and gentlemen, AOC came out with a very strong statement. She said, prosecute ICE. Let me see if I can find this. And this is, I mean, it's just, I think she tweeted it or something, right? Or am I wrong? Whatever, I can't find it. But the point that I'm making is, I think AOC is the front runner. You know, I think there's a lot of people that for some reason don't think she's going to run. And I'm not sure, you know, I think part of it is embarrassment. I think a lot of people made a lot of their career trashing AOC. And I want to be honest, even though I stood in the breach and ate shit by not trashing her forever and said she's going to be our person, and I called it years and years and years and years ago, and I stood against Editor Menta when he was trashing her for the benefit of, I don't know, Gretchen Whitmer or whatever the fuck he was doing, and I was saying, no, that's fucking bullshit. And I stood in the breach and I was like, no, actually she sucks, and Bashir sucks, and all these people suck, and she's actually our best bet. Guess what's going to happen? She's going to run. All those people are going to flip on her. They're going to say she's great, and nobody's going to hold them accountable for saying she sucks. They got to ride the sentiment of her blowing and being terrible for growth, and then they're going to flip on her and say how great she is because she's going to be popular. But I want you to remember that I was here the entire time telling you how shit was going to happen, and then it happened. You should value that. I'm very nervous about this. I hope she doesn't say anything too stupid. Oh, God. I hope she comes up there and she's like, we need to reevaluate Western world's approach to foreign policy. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, but I'm nervous about that. I hope she doesn't fuck it up by saying something really stupid. I went to Delia Ramirez's town hall last month, and she's also on board with abolishing ICE. Is upset at DC consultants telling other Democrats that the phrase doesn't work because they're not even consultants, chat. They're paid shills of the billionaire class. And the establishment loves pushing their propaganda. Libs trash her for being too extreme. Online leftists trash her for not being extreme enough. I mean, it's not even that. They're not even trashing her for not being extreme enough. They're nitpicking her every move. And they just say lies about her. And so people just start believing the lies, and they start retweeting the lies. So then AOC says what we want her to say. And then people are like, oh, rich for you to say that lie. They repeat some lie they heard that she didn't actually do. And they're like, I hate you. I love Summer Lee. And it's like, Summer Lee is like 3 votes better than her. I like Summer Lee too. What the fuck are you talking about, man? They're like the most identical members. Fuck AOC. I'm all about Rashida Tlaib. It's like, they're the same person. They're the same fucking person. Except for like 2 things. AOC's weakest stuff is foreign policy, but her foreign policy is better than everybody else's foreign policy. If AOC comes in there and says, I'm ending the blockade on Cuba, I'm ending the blockade on Venezuela, I'm conditioning aid to Israel. Do you understand that that is a complete sea change? Right now, Cuba is under complete blockade, and they're not giving them any fuel. They cannot get fuel into the country of Cuba. I mean, if I were China, I would be, if it were me, if I were Xi Jinping, I would be sailing a flotilla of cargo ships and 2 aircraft carriers to the fucking Caribbean, and I would be replacing their energy grid with solar panels and backup batteries. I would take 10 billion and I would do that.
We can now go live to Washington to speak to our correspondent, Tony Waterman. Tony, President Trump says he's in high level.
About this. Let's watch her. Let's watch this. Legion Miller. Holy shit. This is cool. Is she radicalizing? Is it finally happening? Is she accepting legal realism and falling and finally giving up on legalism and on liberal belief in the American system? I mean, it was very obvious to me in law school that the legal system was fucking trash, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I remember what case were we talking about? There was a lot of cases where I was like, what the fuck? I remember people try to say how smart Scalia was, and I kept reading his shit. And the best way to understand Scalia is that he was basically the Trump of the Supreme Court. Right-wingers liked him because he was an asshole and he was a piece of shit. and he was completely arbitrary. And his beliefs were basically there's some people that the laws should protect and some people that they shouldn't. And if the law has bad outcomes, was the procedure followed? Well, so be it. That's fine. Open Presence, thank you so much for the 100 bomb, man. Let me just say this, Open Presence. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, but I don't want you to, I don't know what your finances are, man, but I don't want you to be putting yourself into financial stress to support content creators, all right? I'm just going to assume in my mind that you're a multi-millionaire and this is totally nothing to you. But I'm just saying, make sure that you're not putting yourself into financial distress, because we're not going to be able to save you if you are. Okay. Mom stole their mom's credit card. I don't think so. All right. I care about you, Open Presence. I want you to do okay. All right. I appreciate you. Open is gifting on Hassan all dang time too. It's wild. Yeah. Well, it really does help the stream grow. I can tell you that. It does help, and it does make my life easier. All right, let's keep going.
Sponsored by Surfshark. More on them later. Hi, it's Friday, February 6th, 2020.
AOC brings a lot on herself from a lot of otherwise intelligent people. I see AOC voted to fund the IRW, which she has never done, but she supported it rhetorically, which makes it almost pointless to debate on that point. She managed to position herself as functionally pro-Israel by being material anti-Israel. She's absolutely stupid as fuck. Here's what I would say is a lot of the problem is the left that exists online is not the left that exists in DC. We don't have the mechanisms and the personnel and the policy shops to create a truly left-wing policy set. There are very, very few people that actually exist because of what's known as the foreign policy blob. That also, it also stretches into our, like our academic situation. Like if you go get an IR degree, it's going to be blob shit. And so, you know, people are expecting her to simultaneously like turn the entire ship of state around as a single member in the Congress. And it's like, no, I'm not saying this to defend her. I'm saying this as a statement of reality. If you disagree with me, please point me in the direction of the institutions that we can draw on, because I would like to know about them, because I don't know about them.
26, you're tuned into Why America. I'm your lawyer friend, Legia Miller, here in Minneapolis. Much of my time, attention, and coverage lately has been focused on the horrors happening all around me here in Minneapolis, and for good reason. Today, however, I'm looking to a bit of foreign policy, because while the clear and prolific human rights abuses being committed by the regime in Minnesota are worthy of our attention, there are other horrors unfolding elsewhere. And frankly, it's a bit of escapism for me to be thinking about horrors somewhere not on my literal doorstep. So today, we're talking about Cuba. After the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro last month, Cuba has been seen as next on Trump's to-do list of foreign aggression. As predicted, last week, Trump issued an executive order declaring that Cuba poses a national emergency in the United States. And if that sounds like wild and crazy, what do you mean the country of Cuba is a national emergency in the U.S.? You would be right. We'll cover some of the most batshit parts of that executive order, but now Cuba faces a growing humanitarian crisis as the Venezuelan oil it depended upon has dried up, and Trump has threatened sanctions on countries like Mexico that attempt to import any oil to Cuba. Countrywide blackouts in a country that already suffered from extensive blackouts have created what the UN has deemed a potential humanitarian crisis on the island. Today, we're talking about why this matters, why Trump even gives a shit about Cuba, the Marco Rubio of it all, and how this tiny island nation has managed to be a thorn in the side of the most powerful country on earth for over half a century. Thank you to my partner on today's video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a virtual...
Did you guys hear that Waymos are basically driven by workers in the Philippines? Amazing.
Extra months. Thanks, Surfshark. So a fun fact about me is that I have a dual degree in political science and Latin American studies. As part of that program, I had the opportunity to visit Cuba back in 2012. Here is some rare photo evidence of me at 19 on the island. Now, Cuba is incredibly complex and controversial, both for people who live on the island, as well as for the U.S. and other international governments, and for the millions of people who make up the Cuban diaspora around the world. The largest group of them live in Miami, Florida, and Marco Rubio is a member of that diaspora community. So a single video on Cuba is not going to properly sum up all there is to say about the country, and my perspective on the island isn't the only or the correct one. To be honest with you, I was drawn to a degree in Latin American studies as a white teen from the Midwest because in high school Spanish class, I discovered that Che Guevara was hot. And I stand by that, honestly, but my opinion of him and the Cuban Revolution Revolution in Cuba as a whole obviously is much more complex than that. But I also say that because there are a lot of armchair leftists in comment sections across the internet with Che Guevara as their profile picture who know very little about Guevara or the Cuban Revolution. So I think that is also part of the complexity of the story of Cuba, the legend of it all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When I visited Cuba 14 years ago, what I encountered was an island filled with people, many of whom felt a lot of pride for their culture, their history, and their country, but with mixed feelings about their government. I found cities filled with beautiful Spanish colonial architecture that was built when Spain colonized the island and has since fallen into disrepair due to the lack of resources. After the revolution, when the U.S. placed a blockade on Cuba, the island turned to the Soviet Union for support and resources. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Cuba has struggled to maintain its infrastructure and economy, which is a common theme among underdeveloped countries whose resources were extracted and the wealth sent abroad as opposed to enriching the inhabitants of the island itself. Pick a formerly colonized country in the global south, and it's not hard to find the ways the country is still struggling because of its previous colonization. That's not to say the island's economic struggles can't also be blamed on the post-revolutionary government, which has dealt with its fair share of corruption.
I mean, I think this is honestly giving too much rhetorical space. I feel like it's giving too much rhetorical space to the U.S. position. Like, Cuba has not been able to access the world market. You know, like, there's plenty of countries in the Caribbean who had full access to the world market, and guess what? They're in worse position than the Cuba. It's almost as if being an American puppet government doesn't actually ensure development. And it's like, we don't want to allow an island like Cuba to exist, to develop, because if it does, it is it's the good example. And a lot of people in the global south, it's between a rock and a hard place. Do you want to be in a situation where the government is effective, but it's attacked by the United States? Or do you want to be in a position where the government is ineffective, but it's not being attacked by the United States? And that's the decision that everybody in Latin America constantly has to grapple with.
For sure, but I think it's really common to see one side, the US, say that the economic struggles are purely the fault of the communist government, and the other side, Cuba, say that the economic struggles are purely the fault of the US blockade. But the reality is more complicated than that.
Yeah, man. Just be a tiny island 90 miles off the US coast and be rich while the United States is attacking you, stealing all your money, blockading you, saying any ship that trades with Cuba is banned from the United States. So in order for ships to exist, they basically have to trade with Cuba and then sail to the other side of the world. Do you think that Cuba has enough of an economy to sustain multiple major like, you see what I mean? It doesn't have access to the dollar trade, which is global reserve currency. It's pretty bad.
Of course. When I visited in 2012, Havana was incredibly overpopulated, with many people shoved into old, dilapidated buildings in a city that was built to house a population half as large. I found a country that was so dependent on its tourist industry that I met a man selling used books in Old Havana who had a degree in mechanical engineering but could make more money selling me a used copy of 100 Years of Solitude than he could in a week working as a mechanical engineer. We spent
because, again, they're cut off from the world market. So the only way they could, so when you give them dollars, they get access to the world market.
Few days at an all-inclusive resort, a luxury, but also part of our studies of the impact of tourism on the island and of the racialized lines where the whiter staff worked the front desk and the darker-skinned staff worked as cooks or as nightly entertainment. I met a woman who had 4 degrees, but was able to earn a better living making sandwiches at the resort. And by better living, I don't mean she was living in the lap of luxury. I just mean a better living than the 20 or so US dollars per month that continues to this day to be the average monthly salary in Cuba, $20.
Well, why do you think that is? Like, they don't have access to the fucking market. They cannot trade with other countries. When I say market, I don't mean capitalism. I mean, they're not capable of making mutually beneficial exchange, which far predates capitalism. So, like, again, yeah, that's what happens when an island is cut off from the rest of the world.
I saw a country that invested heavily in higher education. Some of the best doctors on the planet were trained in Cuba, but failed to provide employment, leading to extensive brain drain. Highly trained people leaving the island to find work elsewhere. The Cuban diaspora, the people and their descendants who have left Cuba, especially since the revolution in the late 1950s, is as complex as the country itself. Prior to the revolution, Cuba, especially Havana, was the capitalist playground of the rich and famous from the United States. But obviously there was a massive successful revolution there for a reason. The country was run by a violent military dictatorship. Wealth inequality was rampant. People saw the rich and powerful come enjoy the wealth the country had to offer, wealth that was created on the back of extractive agricultural practices and slave labor, while the masses...
So slave labor wasn't just inequality, it was slave labor.
Benefited very little from that wealth. When the revolution came, the wealthy, who were often white European immigrants to Cuba from Spain, were some of the first to flee the island, and many headed for Miami, only 90 miles away from Cuba. But others fled too, especially in the years after the revolution, when many people found that the promises made by the revolution's leaders, prosperity for the poor, equality, a new Cuba, didn't exactly pan out. There's a great book called Oye Loca about the Mariel boat lift, which was a massive migration of 125,000 Cubans in 1980 who crossed the 90 miles of ocean between Cuba and Florida on overcrowded boats. Many of those who fled were LGBTQ+ Cubans who were attempting to escape the repressive, homophobic Cuban government. What they found in...
Bro, this is actually crazy. Yes, they fled to America, the unhomophobic 1980 America. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we doing? This is like weird, kind of like, listen, I'm not saying that the Soviet blocs were like as advanced as I am today on gay rights. They were a lot. And by the way, Cuba today has far better family law than the United States does toward queer people.
Miami, a population of Cubans who were also mostly conservative, wasn't much better. Oye Loca traces that story from Cuba to Miami.
It was better? No.
For this population of queer Cubans. Anyway, so even within the diaspora community in Miami, feelings about Cuba are incredibly complex. And the fact that Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State, is from that diaspora community is important. In a recent episode of Al Jazeera's podcast, The Take, they interviewed Ed Agustin, an independent journalist based in Cuba. And having these voices from inside Cuba is super important because you can't necessarily trust the information coming from official channels of the Cuban government. But you also can't necessarily trust the information coming from official channels of the U.S. government either. We've reached a point in U.S.-Cuban diplomatic relations where it's like two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. In fact, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel held a rare 2-hour press conference this week, announcing intentions to roll out a plan to deal with the U.S. and the current economic collapse in the country. During the press conference, he only allowed a handful of news media in, excluding major news organizations like the Associated Press, and only accepted questions from a handful of approved reporters. Sounds really familiar. Anyway, Agustin, the independent reporter in Cuba, filled in the gaps for me between my experience in Cuba 14 years ago and the realities on the island today. By most measures, it seems to be much worse. Whereas in 2012, Cuba had extensive amounts of oil imports from Venezuela, that had dwindled even in the months leading up to Maduro's capture, to the point where most people on the island of Cuba are without power most of the time. The average Cuban has maybe 3 hours of electricity access per day. The rest of the time is blackouts. And that was before Maduro was captured and Venezuelan oil completely stopped flowing to the island. Mexico had filled in some of the need and actually became a bigger supplier of oil to the island than Venezuela was, and now that supply has dwindled because of threatened sanctions against Mexico by the Trump regime. Cuba's healthcare system, one of the best in the world back in 2012, has also been crumbling. Many Cubans still living in Cuba question the
because the United States of America will not let the import of things like syringes. I think it's one of the things that's kind of like weird for me in general is like, okay, let me get this straight. You are saying the Cuban government is oppressive and has failed to, grow the economy. And it's like they're under wartime conditions from the United States for 70 years. What do you think that your town would look like if the United States military said you're not allowed to sell things to this town? I want you to think about what your town would look like in 70 years.
legitimacy of the government. The government in Cuba is incredibly unpopular because of the current economic situation. But at the same time, as Augustine reports, the capture of Maduro, seen by many on the island as a kidnapping of a head of state, is seen by many Cubans as a clear sign that Cuba is next on the list of targets for the Trump regime. And so there's also a sense of unity in opposing U.S. intervention onto the island. That's, of course, never stopped the U.S. before, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio has openly said he would like to see regime change and the glory of capitalism brought back to Cuba. So when we talk about what's coming out of the White House about Cuba and even Venezuela, just know that it has Marco Rubio's fingerprints all over it. So what is the White House saying? On January 29th, Trump issued an executive order declaring that, quote, the policies, practices, and actions of the government of Cuba constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat, which has its source in whole or substantial part outside the United States to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Specifically, the executive order says Cuba's dangerous actions include aligning itself with terrorist groups and such malign actors as the government of Russia. Ignore the fact that Trump is best friends with Vladimir Putin, I guess, but also China, Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah, the usual suspects. And the accusations against Cuba follow a similar pattern that the Trump regime has used to target protesters and dissidents on U.S. soil. Specifically, the executive order claims that, quote, Cuba welcomes transnational terrorist groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas, creating a safe environment for these malign groups so that these transnational terrorist groups can build economic, cultural, and security ties throughout the region and attempt to destabilize the Western Hemisphere, including the United States.
Now, the reality is that there are groups that the United States has declared persona non grata, and it's just natural for them to try to find some sort of cooperation. Because if they're shut out of the rest of the world market, maybe they have things that they can exchange in order to protect themselves from aggression. Like, that's number one. So even if that were true, that would be natural and logical. Sorry, Chad, I'm a little sick.
Reporting from on the ground in Cuba indicates that there are not, as Trump would have you believe, just Hamas terrorists running around forming covert ties and operations. I think a lot of this has to do with Israel. Immediately after the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack in Israel, Cuba released a formal statement blaming Israel and its accomplice, the U.S., for that violence. Last year, a delegation from Hamas met with the Cuban ambassador in Lebanon, after which the ambassador recognized, quote, the legitimate right of the Palestinians to defend their land. The Palestinians are fighting for a just, he said. Fidel Castro famously supported the creation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization in 1965. And in 1979, he's quoted as saying, from the bottom of our heart, we repudiated the merciless persecution and genocide that the Nazis once visited on the Jews. But there is nothing in recent history that parallels it more than the dispossession, persecution, and genocide that imperialism and Zionism are currently practicing against the Palestinian people. Throughout the last half century, Cuba has repeatedly aligned itself with Palestine and against Israel, including going as far as to lend military support to Palestine during various wars and hostilities with Israel. In recent years, Cuban President Diaz-Canel has also sided with Russia in its war against Ukraine, and with Iran, and with Hezbollah, a group that is recognized around the world as being a terrorist organization.
By who? By who? I mean, okay. What country is considered to be a terrorist organization? By the way, Britain didn't call Hezbollah a terrorist organization until March of 2019. Thus, Britain joined Israel, the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. So recognized around the world, and it's Israel, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands? It's Five Eyes? I mean, one of the things that's really crazy is, like, the United States of America commits terrorism every single day, but it's not recognized as a terrorist organization because the United States is a powerful country. So whenever I hear someone doing like, oh, this organization is recognized as a terrorist organization, blah, 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 that's just political. That's a political position that the group is bad, that you don't agree with the group's goals. It's not that you actually care about terrorism.
Was one of few countries that publicly criticized the Israeli killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, in a bombing in Beirut in 2024 that took place in a residential suburb and killed numerous civilians in the process. Again, it's a complicated balance that Cuba is trying to strike. On the one hand, trying to ease relations with the United States, its closest and most powerful neighbor, while also forming alliances with countries that are typically seen as U.S. adversaries: Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela, especially when thinking in Cold War communist versus capitalist terms, because the U.S. has blockaded the country for over half a century, and it needs trading partners in order to survive. And the U.S. makes a really good foil to Cuba, a country whose leadership still references the revolution, who uses the rhetoric of revolution and us versus them to unite the people, despite a country with crumbling infrastructure facing economic collapse. And this latest executive order is being used by the Diaz-Canel administration as a means of uniting a population despite the deep unpopularity of the Cuban government. And some of the accusations in this executive order are fucking rich, coming from the Trump regime. Quote, the communist regime persecutes and tortures its political opponents, denies the Cuban people free speech and press, corruptly profits from their misery, and commits other human rights violations. For example, families of political prisoners face retaliation for peacefully protesting the improper confinement of their loved ones. Cuban.
Can someone tell me, if you're a lawyer, what's the conclusory statement in that sentence? Improper confinement. There you go. There you go. See, when you say something like this, for example, families of political prisoners face retaliation for peacefully protesting, you can't say that. You have to be specific. I'm sorry, but you can't say that. You got to be specific. Who are the, quote, political prisoners? What did they actually do? Usually when people talk about political prisoners in Cuba, what they're referring to are people that take money from the American government in order to set up anti-governmental organizations. So somebody takes money from an American spy to set up a fucking an organization that is focused on overthrowing the government. They get arrested for treason because that's what they're doing. That's treason. And then their family protests for the Western media that they're a poor political prisoner. And when they say retaliation, what are they talking about? What retaliation? Be specific. What's the retaliation? People in society, firing them from their jobs, shunning them because they're traitors. Like, what is the you got Cuban authorities harass worshipers, block free association by civil society organizations, prohibit free press, and deny the ability to speak freely, including on the internet. What they're really talking about, chat, is the Cuban authorities don't allow American-backed regime change organizations from attacking the Cuban government. That's what they're talking about here. And honestly, I will say this, and I'll be completely honest with you, if I were in charge of these governments, I would be a lot harsher than they are. Like, I think the Cuban government is basically saintly on the level, and it's the same thing with the Maduro government. The Maduro government had all sorts of American-backed traitors walking around the country openly and freely. I wouldn't have done that. I would have prosecuted people for treason for taking money from the American government. I would have passed a law, if you take money from the American government, you are a traitor. And then I would have prosecuted people for it, and I would have executed people for that. So it is what it is. And I'm sure if I started taking a bunch of money from the Chinese government and I set up an organization to overthrow the government, you know where I would end up? In federal fucking prison for life.
Authorities harass worshipers,
That's
block
exactly
free association by civil society organizations, prohibit free press, and deny the ability.
If I started taking money from Hamas, they'd have me in prison for life, possibly executing me. If I started taking money from the Iranian government, they would have me in prison for life. If I started taking money from any supposed enemy of the U.S., I'd be in prison for life. The only exception to that is Russia, because Donald Trump is corrupt. And most of the Russian spies support Donald Trump. It's kind of their whole thing.
To speak freely, including on the internet. It's fine if we do it, but slap a communist label on it, and now it threatens the stability of the entire hemisphere. Also, while Cuba's foreign policy and alliances may in some cases be deeply problematic, they're not new. There is no new state of emergency to tie this emergency declaration to. The Trump regime is taking the old school communism bad, Cold War rhetoric, and the tool of fear-mongering used in the 20th century, and molding it to the 21st century fear-mongering of choice, terrorism. And what is Trump proposing to do to stop this horrible emergency terrorism threat? Tariffs, obviously. He promises to add tariffs to imports on goods into the United States from any country that directly or indirectly provides oil to Cuba. But the order says if Cuba takes steps to address this national emergency and align more closely with the United States, Trump reserves the right to modify the order. It's ransom. And who's in charge of monitoring the ongoing national emergency related to Cuba? Marco Rubio. The country most obviously targeted by this executive order now that Venezuela is under Trump's thumb is Mexico. The ruling Morena party has long ties with Cuba, and so President Sheinbaum is facing a lot of pressure from within her coalition to support Cuba. At the same time, massive new tariffs on Mexican imports into the U.S. would strain the Mexican economy. Reports say that the Mexican government is in talks with the United States about a compromise, wherein Mexico could send oil and supplies to the island in the form of humanitarian aid, though it's unclear whether that compromise will be successful. The U.S. itself has pledged $6 million in aid for Cuba in the form of food and solar lamps, but that aid will be distributed by the Catholic Church, I guess, according to reporting from the Associated Press, which interviewed Jeremy Lewin, which they called a U.S. Department of State senior official, and he confirmed that his mother was born in Cuba. But if the name Jeremy Lewin sounds familiar, this is one of the weirdo Doge bros with a shady past who took a wrecking ball to our government last year. He was placed in charge of policy and programs at what remained of USAID after it was gutted last year. He was the one who signed the email officially shuttering the agency and firing most of its staff. And according to the Rolling Stone, he also has a history of assaulting a fellow student at the elite private school where he went to high school and threatening a girl with a knife, who later filed a police report. Rolling Stone interviewed 10 people close to him, many of whom described him as a violent racist who was into the Great Replacement theory before it was popular. That's who's in.
Smith, America is a nation of offline moderates ruled by a small fringe of online extremists. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and AOC is and Bernie Sanders are the most popular Democrats, according to the polling. And your avatar is the Nazi who is in favor of nuking the planet and exterminating the human race with the doomsday machine. Noah Smith, legitimately, and I say this, if you see Noah Smith, I want you to give him a firm handshake for me, would you?
Charge of USAID, and apparently the $6 million in aid the U.S. has pledged to send to Cuba. That money is, of course, a drop in the fucking bucket for a country that can't keep its lights on, is seeing long lines at gas stations, and experiencing a crisis the UN says may devolve into humanitarian collapse if aid doesn't reach them soon. And I'm annoyed that the Associated Press quoted this Jeremy Lewin character with no additional background on who he is, because it makes it seem like he's just some government aid worker and not an unqualified lunatic. Though I suppose you can just kind of assume that about anyone speaking on behalf of the Trump regime at this point. But that brings us to our final question, and that is, why is Cuba such a thorn in the side of the U.S., and specifically a focus of the Trump regime? Marco Rubio's ties to the Cuban diaspora aside, Cuba is relatively small potatoes compared to, for example, the ongoing standoff with Iran, especially considering Trump promised his base that he wouldn't get all muddled up in foreign conflicts. And I think that interview on Al Jazeera's The Take with journalist Ed Agustin is insightful here as well. I've linked all my sources in the description as usual, so you can listen to that. One reason is, of course, the age-old rivalry between the U.S. and any communism, quote-unquote, happening in the Western Hemisphere. My episode on the Monroe Doctrine, or the Donroe Doctrine, talked a lot about this. Additionally, we can't underestimate the importance of the sheer proximity of Cuba to the United States. 90 miles is really close. I think, similar to regime change in Venezuela, for the people working behind the scenes of the Trump regime, the long-dreamed of regime change in Cuba would be a major victory and would eradicate the perceived or real threat of Russian, Chinese, Iranian, etc. presidents so close to home. Of course, the continued blockade against Cuba has done nothing over the last 60 years but push Cuba closer and closer to our adversaries out of sheer necessity. But sure, we love to strong-arm these communist regimes until they bend to our will. Ousting opposition in Venezuela was a long-time goal. The same goes for Cuba. For Trump himself, though, I think it's all about ego. Obama made inroads with Cuba, opening the door for a bit to attempt to normalize relations with the island. Trump came in and slammed the door closed during his first term. If he could then turn around and force a regime change in Cuba, he could add that feather to his cap and do something his predecessors never could, which he would love. The Trump dream here really would probably likely be something similar to what he's talked about wanting to do in Gaza. The US goes in, brings capitalism to the starving masses, Trump gets to put up a couple Trump towers in Havana, they clean the whole place up, and everyone walks away happy with the Cuban government now comfortably in the pocket of the United States. That, I think, would be the ultimate win for Trump. And by starving out Cuba, by threatening any and all countries that dare to attempt to send oil and supplies to Cuba, the United States is trying to starve it into compliance, which, for the record, the US has tried to do for the last half century unsuccessfully, which is all the more reason why Trump would love to have a victory over Cuba to point to say, look, I did what no one else could do. At this point, it's unclear whether that would work. The idea of forcing regime change like they did in Venezuela is a lot harder in Cuba. Cuba has a very loyal military, it has fully secured all its borders because it's an island, it's a lot easier to do that as an island, and Cuba has a famously skilled military intelligence apparatus. Those are things Venezuela Venezuela did not have and that have protected Cuba from successful U.S. intervention by force, which is why the economic sanctions have been the weapon of choice for the U.S. this entire time. Trump is just turning up the heat, hoping that enough starving Cubans will eventually pressure the government to cave. Given that the Cuban people have historically seen the U.S. as the big aggressor, as the enemy, it's not clear that even if they are suffering, that there would be popular support for the administration.
Sorry about that, chat. I was coughing, so I muted again. I don't want to catastrophize or anything, but I think that without the charismatic leadership of Castro, without the without lifelines from places like Venezuela, people they look at Cuba, they're like, wow, they've stood up against 70 years of blockade. But at a certain point, a small island country cannot hold out against 350 million people, no matter how just, no matter how righteous their cause.
Of Diaz-Canel to cave to Trump's demands. As with much of global politics, we are kind of all being forced to sit and wait and watch while the egos of a few men play out on the global stage. For the people living in Cuba, that could very well spell humanitarian disaster before any resolution is reached. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get that great discount. If you'd like to support my work, consider joining here on YouTube by clicking the big join button down below, or supporting me over on Patreon, patreon.com/LegiaMiller, where you get access to all these episodes completely ad-free. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Christopher Cohen, Evan Friedley, Mark, Sarah Shelby, Dennis Smith, Art, David, Latranger Lucas, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you like this episode, you'll like my episode from earlier this week about how body cameras are not going to save us from ICE. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Trump seems generally uniquely open to bribes. Could that help here? Like, could have Cuba accelerate normalization by allowing a Trump tower in Havana or something? Oh my poor little thing. My poor little thing. My poor little thing. The capitalists are always going to have more to bribe you with. All right? That's what you don't understand. The capitalists are always going to have more bribes than whatever socialist regime that's been sanctioned for 70 years. The only countries that are capable of bribing Trump while also not being targeted, you have to remember, the Cuban government is targeted by the entire American state. Steve-O went mask off on his podcast supporting ICE
illegally in America. Right. It's like the majority of them are murderers.
No, that's a fallacy. That's a huge fallacy. Okay. Think about it. Think about
they're bad hombres.
7 billion people on the planet. What percentage of those human beings in all cultures across the globe would you say are murderers? Less than 1.1%. How many human beings wake up every day and go, I'm going to take the life of another human? It's such a small percentage. So to then say, let's say there's...
And the percentage of people that do that are American allies, that's the other element. Like the number of people that actually kill, how many are associated with the American government or an ally of the American government or an ally of the American government? It's about 90%.
Yeah.
Let's say there's 30 million illegals. To say that most of them are murderers, that's improbable. Yeah. It's probably, the reality is 0.1% of them are murderers. Now, they're bad people. They're murderers, so they shouldn't be here, but most of them are not.
Well, okay, fair point. But a great many of them are trafficking.
Yeah, there's...
No, if you're trying to traffic fentanyl in America, you hire somebody like Steve-O. He's white. He's an American citizen. He's not very bright. He doesn't have any connections. And he makes it through the border. And if he gets caught, so what? Who gives a fuck? He's too stupid to know anything. The vast majority of trafficked fentanyl comes from Americans. Also, it's synthesized. Probably being made in some CIA lab in Long Beach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we even kidding? Who are we kidding?
Look, when you're here illegally and you might not have the means to go through legal channels to work or find a way to feed your family or whatever, there might be a propensity for you to have to do illegal activity to feed yourself and keep your lifeline going. So that's more probable, but murder doesn't make sense. Yeah.
You have to understand something, chat. There are a lot of really profoundly stupid motherfuckers. Did you see this? Hassan went on the show. They kept adding more people because more people. All right. I kind of want to watch this. At least for a couple minutes. I I saw one clip where Hassan looked pretty good. I expect it to be very obnoxious.
Just more of the same. And so
This is not a test. We're so happy to have Hassan Piker is here. He's a political commentator, a content creator who live streams daily on Twitch and on YouTube. And I am a huge fan, and I can only learn from his greatness here in the streaming world. Also joining us is Akilah Hughes. She's a writer, a comedian, and the host of the Rebel Spirit podcast. And then a little bit later on, Godfrey is going to join us, a comedian and actor, a dear friend of the Don Lemon Show. After that, Katie Fang is going to join us. She's an attorney, a legal analyst, and the host of the Katie Fang Show right here on YouTube. Charles Coleman is an MSNBC.
I mean, I think Don Lemon is going to radicalize, right? Because he got arrested by Trump, right? So, of course, he's going to radicalize. He has to radicalize. Like, he's going to see the libs don't do anything. They don't give a shit. They just leave you out to dry. They just leave you out to dry. So, of course, he's going to end up radicalizing because the only people that are going to have his back are going to be left-wingers. All the centrists are going to hide. Oh, what the?
Legal analyst, former prosecutor, and a civil rights attorney will join us in a bit. Anna Navarro is a host of The View. She's going to be on Sunny Hostel.
Oh, God. Anna Navarro. Oh, you got the Contra here. You got the Contra here. Oh, does the Contra not like Contra tactics coming to the United States, but they were happy when it was happening in Latin America? Oh, is the Contra here?
And a host of The View will be on as well. Thank you for joining. You have been sitting patiently, Akilah. Hassan, you have been sitting here patiently.
I've had a lot of technical issues. Sorry.
That's okay. So, Akilah, there's no debating what this is.
Yeah, this is explicit racism. I don't think that it's even a new form of racism. It's actually kind of the oldest American racism, is comparing Black people to apes and monkeys. So I really appreciate you saying we're not going to split hairs on whether it's racist or not, because it's a waste of everyone's fucking time. It's racist. Somebody said hello in the comments. Hi. But I think what really struck me was how lazy Caroline Leavitt's lie was today. Like, saying it's a frame from The Lion King, when The Lion King for a very long time, most of my life, was the highest grossing animated film. I don't know a single soul who hasn't seen it. We all know that there aren't gorillas in it, and there certainly aren't palm trees that look like that. It's just so stupid. And she, really boasts about being a young mother and being pregnant and having a kid on the way. And I'm like, well, do you watch the movies your kids are watching? Because this is the most popular animated film, before Frozen, and I guess most recently Zootopia 2. So I think it's like actually damning to come up with a very lazy lie, which also, like, to your point, makes it easy for the president to undermine her and say, well, it's just another person who works here, without naming that person, without calling for them to be fired, without a real apology, just more of the same. And so I think, especially in Black History Month, it's like a real slap in the face to Black people in this country. But, it's just more of the same from this racist administration.
Hassan, what do you say?
I mean, I think as the white guy on the panel, it's probably not my place to say this, but I have this theory.
This is one of the things that Hassan does, which is a huge L. It's a motherfucking huge L. It's something that he should stop doing. As the actual white guy, I want to explain liberalism to Hassan. As the American native white guy. In America, on the progressive side, people try to run away from whiteness or claiming whiteness. They'll enjoy the privileges of whiteness, but they try to distance themselves from other white people by claiming whatever diverse identity they can. I think that it's a side of Hassan's morality that he doesn't, where he acknowledges his white privilege and everything. But like, bad faith people are going to use that. Can you imagine if AOC called herself white? Like, as the white woman here, like, that's what this is. It's the same level of shit. It's like, AOC is not white. Hassan is not white. Now, certainly there's colorism that they benefit from. Yes, there's passing privilege. Yes, they have pretty privilege. They have other things that are going for them that make up for the fact that they're not white. Colorism, the closer you are to approximating whiteness, depending on how diverse the area you're in, you have more or less privilege. It's complicated. It's complicated. But I'm sorry, a Turkish Muslim man, he's not considered white. Like, I know he does this, but I just have to stop it, because People call Hassan white all the time in order to justify attacking him. And it's like, it's kind of obnoxious. Like, I'll laugh along with him, but I also want to, like, I don't know, protect him a bit and reiterate what's reality, because jokes become narratives.
Of permissible racism that the broad majorities of white people who might share racialized animus might consider to be like somewhat permissible, because anti-blackness is baked into every orifice of American society. And there are a couple
every orifice. That's such a Hassanism. Where anti-blackness is baked into every orifice. What the fuck does that mean? What does baking in an orifice mean? Can someone explain to me what the fuck that means? I'm not questioning the idea, namely that racism is deeply ingrained into the fabric of America. You know, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm just laughing at the Hassanism. Baked into an orifice. What the fuck does that mean?
Things that you can't touch, right? There's a couple of things that when you do it, even other racist white people will go, ooh, that's a little bit too much for me. And I feel like obviously the most, the classic example of this is perhaps best demonstrated by Lee Atwater, famous Republican strategist Lee Atwater, that said you can't say the N-word anymore after the civil rights movement. So you like find different ways of analogizing the N-word by attacking black people from the point of welfare, claiming that black people are welfare queens, things like that Ronald Reagan did. This is like, we all know that Donald Trump is racist. We all know that he is deeply invested in anti-blackness as a primary part of his politics. I mean, this is the same person that took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to demand the execution of the Central Park Five. This is a person whose family was prosecuted by the federal government for refusing to rent out their properties to black people. So we already knew this, and yet the Republicans are acting as though they're shocked now because he has finally touched on this like untouchable position where he is depicting Barack and Michelle Obama as apes is completely unacceptable. But I think it should maybe hopefully serve as a wake-up call for a lot of Americans who are still questioning whether or not he's racist. But I think at this point we all know, like, I mean, he is. I mean, he's been calling, he ran and campaigned on saying that Haitians were eating cats and dogs, which I thought would have been a turning point or a wake-up call for many Americans to go, wait a minute, you're talking about a bunch of black immigrants that have temporary protected status that you gave them, actually, living in Springfield, Ohio, boosting the economy of Springfield, Ohio, and you're just saying that they're eating, you're using incredibly racialized narratives about black people in that regard.
I think this kind of shit, making Michelle and Barack Obama monkeys, this is the type of shit that is such a cell phone. Because there's a few things in America that everybody considers to be racist. Comparing black people to monkeys and saying the N-word with the hard ER. If you do any of those two things, people say, wow, you're racist. You did the racist thing. You've officially done the racist thing. You could advocate that black people are inferior to white people and people will say that's not racist. But if you say the N-word or say black people are monkeys, then you will be considered a racist in this country. Now, I consider all of that to be racist, just to be clear. I don't want you to have some sort of weird statement that I didn't say. Obviously, all of that shit is racist. But what's really impressive about this is Donald Trump is so fucking dumb that he's actually trying to maneuver himself into an 80-20 position. I just recently heard that the majority of white people disapprove of Trump, or it's like, or what I should say is a plurality does. It's that he's actually underwater with white people. Now, what I want you to understand something, chat, is when you say he's underwater with white people, this is something that I've tried to explain for people over and over and over again. There's two types of white people: evangelical Christians and white people. Okay? Those are the two types of white. Anybody who's an evangelical Christian is a Trump cultist fascist, okay? They're not winnable. And then there are other white people, all right? He's going to lose every single one of the other white people. Like any white person that's even plausibly normal, he's going to start losing. And if the Democratic Party I mean, and there are normal white people in the South. Many of you are normal white people in the South, which is why whenever I say the South sucks, a lot of people object because you're not an evangelical Christian. If you're someone who lives in the South right now, chat, if you're somebody who lives in the South right now, are you an evangelical Christian? Raise your hand. And the answer is none of you will be, because if you were, you wouldn't be in here. My family is Southern Baptist. What do they think of Trump? Kale, what do they think of Trump? Your Southern Baptist family. What do they think of Trump? They are big fans. That's exactly my point. Exactly my point. And so if you think about all white people as a monolith, you don't understand that actually that's not correct. And by the way, the more north you go, the less people are evangelical Christian. So it is like the more south you go, the more evangelical Christians you get, the more batshit crazy white people you get. And the reason why that is we didn't do a reconstruction. We didn't do a second reconstruction. We didn't fix Southern whites. We let all the institutions of racism continue to persist, specifically the Southern Baptist religion. I think the Southern Baptist religion should be dissolved. It's not compatible with liberal democracy. It's not compatible with socialism. It's not compatible with equality. And I'm not saying that we have to ban the practice of the religion. What I'm saying is that we have to reform the institution. I'd strip its tax exempt status. Mike, this might pique your interest. Do Democrats need a left-wing Joe Rogan? We already have one. His name is Hassan Piker. Why do you think Joe Rogan never brought Hassan on the show? Because he's worried that Hassan would outcompete him. Literally. We already have one. His name is Hassan Piker. Unironically, it's true. You understand? The one thing that is good about me is I am a little bit of a talent scout, and that I can identify people that I think are really talented and are going to do well. And so when I met Hassan for the first time in 2019, I was like, oh, this guy's fucking great. I love this guy. And I have been a supporter of him since then. The moment I knew about Hassan's streams, I was a supporter. And I have been rewarded for that. I have been rewarded for being someone who has stood behind Hassan through thick and thin, through all the bullshit scandals, through all the attacks, when everybody else was stabbing him in the back. That's just the reality. Like, more votes are being counted in New Jersey 11, and she's widening her lead. Oh yeah, I didn't even go into how she's gonna win because I thought it was so obvious that she was gonna win. I didn't even give you, honestly, I fucked up. I should have explained to you why I knew she was gonna win. One, all the late breaking votes were going to her. So all the votes that they haven't counted yet were almost certainly late breaking mail-in votes and provisional ballots, which were overwhelmingly going to be in her direction on net. So I never thought that there was any, like, what she pulled ahead by 500-600 votes, it was Jover. I cannot believe she won that seat. It is so fucking awesome that we actually managed to win a race where the centrists were splitting their vote and we weren't. The progressives weren't splitting their vote. Honestly, that race is such an interesting race and I want to talk about it more, but basically air power from the left won. It's like when the Cuban Air Force attacked the landing of the Bay of Pigs. It's like, when does the left-wing Air Force win? The right wing is the side that has the Air Force. It's rare that the left wing has an Air Force because, the Air Force is very aristocratic. Just being honest, Air Forces are the forces of the class elite. And the reason why is because, one, they're cool as fuck, but they're expensive. Planes are expensive. They're technologically advanced. They require a lot of logistic support, and training as a pilot is very expensive. So rich people do Air Forces. Also, they're safe. It's safer usually. So you get to be in combat. You get to look cool, and you are also a little bit safer. Not safe necessarily for combat, but that's why the aristocratic classes love the Air Forces. I mean, and it's fun. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's fun as fuck. Like, flying planes is fun as fuck. Personally. I ran the super PAC in support of Don Malinowski's campaign. I'm also a pro-Israel Jew. What AIPAC did in this race is bad for Jews, bad for Israel, and bad for having a bipartisan congressional support for the very issues AIPAC claims to care about. Yeah, of course. It was incredibly stupid. But the thing is, Israel is not, there is no liberal Zionism anymore. Like, a lot of liberal Zionists keep pretending that Israel exists. It is just a fascist right-wing Nazi state. They don't even tolerate liberal Zionists anymore. They want to do maximum expansionism. So if you're not towing the line of maximum expansionism, then you're not pro-Israel in their mind. Liberal Zionism is dead. And that's because that's what Israel supporters want. Mike, speaking of flying, do you ever do flight sim streams? No, but I should get back into it. I should do flight sims. Like, what am I doing? I've been playing like dumb time wasting games, and it's like if I'm playing dumb time wasting games, I might as well be doing flight sims. What, guys, what is there a good like foot pedal and yoke combo? I want to have my rudders on foot pedals, and I want to have a decent yoke and maybe like a throttle, and I also would love a leaning lever as well. I don't want to have that be like buttons. I want that to be more, I want to have a better simulation. Oh, maybe, oh, VR head tracking. Maybe I should do that too. Yeah, so it would like track my, yeah, no, that sounds good. Bro's about to buy 10K at hardware, LOL. If I want to get flying again, I might as well get, you know, you can practice like, the things that are hardest in flying for me are things like sequencing aviation with communication. So I think it would be fun to be practicing my comms, you know, practicing comms offline, like out of a cockpit, and then practicing things like, you know, just the things that I always like found to be a little bit more stress inducing was just like really dumb shit. Like that's not actually that hard to do. You just need to practice. Speaking of, like, flying the plane was always easy as fuck for me. What's your call sign, Mike? Mine, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It would be something like ramen shop. All right, let's keep going. Or KBBQ, you know? The Galby. You don't get to pick your own call sign. Yeah, call signs are embarrassing. They're not cool. If somebody has a cool call sign, they're a chud. They're a fucking chud.
Somalis are a parasitic force that must be forcibly excised from the country, even though 95% of Somalis are American citizens. So there is no anti-immigrant advocacy there. There is no ICE action that is justified at all in that circumstance. These are all very clear demonstrations of anti-blackness that is, I think, foundational to the Republican Party's politics. And this is completely indefensible even by other races.
Well, Hassan, this is also the party of even black people and brown people who say that, you know, there is no racism or systemic racism in America.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just this is a big part of the Republican strategy is to deny the very real racial wrongs that have been committed in this country on the basis of blackness, like directly on the basis of blackness. And the solution, of course, is also going to be on the basis of blackness as well. And yet any kind of recognition of this historic wrong is considered to be the real racism. What they love to say is reverse racism.
I want to bring in now Katie Fang. Katie Fang is an attorney, a legal analyst, and the host of the Katie Fang Show right here on YouTube.
They're bringing on all the buddies. They're like, okay, everybody, we're having Hassan on. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Everybody get on. We're having Hassan on. This is not a drill. Everybody get on. Get the clout. Ooh, new Noah Samson. We'll definitely check that out.
Katie, thank you very much for joining us. When you saw this, I mean,
Okay, chat, does anybody have where Ana Navarro is there and is annoying as fuck? Because that's more fun. That'll be better content. Me watching Ana Navarro come on and be annoying would bring out more good mic content than, like, I want to yell at her and say how dumb she is and, like, attack her personally.
Hands and the gestures that it feels to like he's still delivering the speech. So I don't know
in a jacket in the park.
Yes, right, in a park, which feels like he just got out of a car to get it, and he's going to get in the car. But so that's the thing. It's like I guess like for the people it's supposed to play to, who are probably his donors. You know, I'm glad that he actually said something that's worthwhile to me. I just think that like the internet is so far beyond that delivery method that it's like, okay, well, he did his thing, and we'll take it from here. We're on the Don Lemon Show. I'll say it. Fuck Donald Trump. He's a racist.
Katie Fang, stand by. I just want to bring someone in. Ana Navarro is here. Ana Navarro is a host of The View and a co-host of The View and one of my dearest friends in the whole world. Ana, thank you so much for joining us. Give 2 seconds. I just want Katie to weigh in on the F-bomb, and then we're going to get Ana in.
I like where we were, Don. I don't even want to. I can end it with.
God, she's so fucking rich. It's so obnoxious to see how rich she is. And it's because she's a war criminal Nepo baby. Her father was like one of the worst war criminals of the 20th century. And she gets treated as like a normal person. Let's talk about Ana Navarro for a second. Ana Navarro being around is like one of those things that it honest to God makes me a little bit sick to my stomach, because it's like, no, like really, she's treated as like this normal person, but she's there because her father was a fucking war criminal murderer. Born in 1971 to a wealthy land-owning agricultural family in Nicaragua, Navarro is the daughter of Violeta Flores Lopez and Jose Augusto Navarro Flores, a former minister of agriculture under the administration of Enrique Bolanos Geyer. Wow, this Wikipedia page is super locked down. What the fuck? This is super locked down. They don't say anything of his time as president in the 80s? She and her family moved to the United States in 1980 because of political turmoil, though her father, who had also been persecuted as an opponent of the Somoza regime, stayed behind to continue the fight with the Contras and against the Sandinista government. She later said that U.S. President Ronald Reagan's support of the Contras made her a lifelong Republican. She went to the Carleton School of the Sacred Heart, a private Catholic college preparatory day school for girls in Coconut Grove, Miami. During her first year at university, she campaigned for aid to the Contras. All right, let's go to the Contras then. In 1981, the CIA and Argentina's Secretariat of Intelligence persuaded several Contra groups to unite into the larger Nicaraguan Democratic Force. 1982, the Boland Amendment was passed to aid U.S. aid to the Contras, yet the Reagan administration continued to illegally fund the Contras. During the war, the Contras' tactics featured terrorism and human rights violations against civilians. The Global Terrorism Database reports that Contras carried out more than 1,300 terrorist attacks. Now, chat. Her father was part of a group that did 1,300 terrorist attacks, 1,300 different terrorist attacks. And she said that would make them a right-wing supporter of Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party for life. Atrocities. The CIA supplied the funds and the equipment, coordinated training programs, provided intelligence and target lists. Target lists? So in other words, the United States of America drew up names of people and then gave weapons to guys to go kill them. And people will say, excuse me, Cuba is a terrorist organization. They arrested someone who took money from the CIA. This is what the CIA does. The more power you let the CIA have in your country, the more unhinged evil they are. Target list is such a fucking sterilized explanation of this. While the Contra had little military success, they did prove adept at carrying out CIA guerrilla warfare strategies from training manuals, which advised them to incite mob violence, neutralize civilian leaders and government officials, and attack soft targets, including schools, health clinics, and cooperatives. The agency added to the Contra's sabotage efforts by blowing up refineries and pipelines and mining ports. Finally, according to former Contra leader Edgar Chamorro, CIA traitors gave Contra soldiers large knife. A commando knife was given to our people. Everybody wanted to have a knife like that to kill people, to cut their throats. In 1985, Newsweek published a series of photos taken by Frank Wohl, a conservative student in Meyer traveling with the Contras, entitled Execution in the Jungle. The victim dug his own grave, scooping the dirt out with his hands. He crossed himself. Then a Contra executioner knelt and rammed a K-bar knife into his throat. A second enforcer stabbed at his jugular, then his abdomen. When the corpse was finally still, the Contras threw dirt over the shallow grave and walked away. The CIA officer in charge of the covert war admitted to House Intelligence Committee staff in a secret briefing that the Contras were routinely murdering civilians and Sandinista officials in the provinces, as well as heads of cooperatives, nurses, doctors, and judges. But he claimed that this did not violate President Reagan's executive order prohibiting assassinations because the agency defined it as just killing. After all, this is war, a paramilitary operation. Edgar Chamorro explained the rationale behind this to a U.S. reporter. Sometimes terror is very productive. This is the policy, to keep putting pressure until people cry uncle. The CIA manual for the Contras, Tecan, states that the Contras should gather the local population for a public tribunal to shame, ridicule, and humiliate Sandinista officials to reduce their influence. It also recommends gathering the local population to witness and take part in public executions. In April 1987, an American aid worker named Benjamin Linder was killed by the Contras. After the signing of the Central American Peace Accord in August 1987, the year war-related deaths and economic destruction reached its peak. The Contras eventually entered negotiations with the Sandinista government, and the war began to de-escalate. By 1989, it's like, this is who she's saying that we should support. This is who she says made her a Republican. I'm sorry, but if you say this is okay, if you say this is okay, if you support this, I mean, you are a target. Like, you've opened yourself up to becoming a target. I don't know what else to say. Actual Nazi. And notice that they couldn't win a battle. Notice that these Contra fucks couldn't win a battle. All they could do was kill innocent civilians.
Wait, I did not hear that. Are you muted? What did you say?
Am I muted? It would be the first time in my life I'm muted. Am I muted?
No, I think you need to get closer to the microphone, but go ahead.
I said that I loved where this thing was ending. I don't think I need to do anything else. I can just sit here and hear Akilah go say it over and over again.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for the passion. It seemed a little bit forced, to Akilah's point. What I would have loved to have heard, though, was a little bit less outrage about the racism and a little bit matching outrage about the lies that were a part of the bigger post. I mean, you know, coming on the heels of them raiding Fulton County last week, coming on the heels of Steve Bannon and Caroline Leavitt saying, expect ICE at the polls in November. The fact that the video was being used to let people think that 2020 was a stolen election and that there's something defective about our voting machines is a real problem. And so in some ways, it was a pretty smart delivery vehicle for Donald Trump. It forces a lot of people will go and watch that video. They'll see the bullshit and lies and the conspiracy about a stolen election and about machines that have been hijacked to give the election to Joe Biden in 2020. And then they'll also get their rocks off by watching a racist clip. So in some way, maybe this was a part of a bigger scheme and a plan to be able to satisfy and throw red meat to this base. But Don, you know, they probably should kind of walk and chew gum at the same time, deal with the racism, which we all expect from Donald Trump, but also say, don't believe the lies that are coming about the stolen election.
Yeah. Charles, I'm just told by my team that you've been in the back in the green room for about 10 minutes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were in the green room. Charles Coleman is joining us as MSNBC legal analyst and the former prosecutor.
What the fuck? How many more people are getting out of here? What the fuck? How many more people are coming out of here? What the hell?
The civil rights attorney. Charles, you have been listening to this, and I don't know if you saw Hakeem Jeffries, but overall, you can talk about that or what you thought when you saw this horrific meme come out and their excuses about it, which make no sense.
I thank you for bringing me in, Don. I have watched everybody cook, and so I'm about to get on the stove real quick. First things first. I think everyone can agree that it literally does not matter that this was deleted, and so if anyone is combated with that, like, oh well, he deleted it, it does not matter, because the one thing, despite Caroline Leavitt's attempt to first blame another staffer and then to first downplay the notion of it and saying that he's king of the jungle, and then second to blame a staffer, even with the deletion, there's one thing that did not occur from this administration that should not be surprising. There was never an apology, and there was never an acknowledgement of how offensive this actually was and how inappropriate it was. And so if there's any expectation that there was going to be a mea culpa around this, you should understand that this is an administration, and particularly a president, who thrives on the notion of being defiant and in what we in our community say, loud and wrong. Like and so we have not seen an apology, and keep that in mind. So the fact that it was deleted means absolutely nothing, because it shouldn't have been there in the first place. The second thing that I want to say is we have to.
Why the fuck? Okay. Why the fuck do they have this giant monkey picture taking up more than half the screen? What the fuck is happening? Every political Twitch stream goes back to becoming a debate panel.
At this point, if we haven't already, understand that for those people who continue to say this is not America, this is not America, this is so un-American, this is yet another example that reflects that Donald Trump has taken a sledgehammer to the American veneer, the veneer that has allowed so many people to turn a blind eye and maintain the lie or the notion that this is not America. This is exactly the America that we have been telling people exists and has existed since 1776. So as we're in our 250th year, having a great time in Magaland, understand that this is very much so part and parcel of America, and that this is not America because Donald Trump is the president. Donald Trump is the president because this is America. Mm-hmm. And I think people need to understand the correlation to that as we continue to unravel this. And as far as what Donald Trump did, obviously it's abhorrent. Obviously it's an aberration. Obviously it's offensive. But the key is our reaction. Hakeem Jeffries, I heard you. He's literally my congressman. What I want to know is, will there be a demand at a minimum for a formal apology? Where your F Donald Trump energy, where is it going? Because I appreciate the fact that this seems to have lit a fire under your ass. I don't know where that fire has been, but ultimately, if I'm going to see you and Democrats and Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats as anything other than unserious in this moment, I want to know what you're going to do. What are your demands in terms of pushing back on the president? Because, Don, the most important thing in this moment that I submit is not what the president did, nor how the White House responded, because the White House's response was a function of what they saw from the public. When Tim Scott comes out and says that this is something that is the most racist thing that he's seen from this administration, then that says everything you need to know about the fact that this administration understood, I really missed the mark on this.
The Don Lemon Show logo is Axe. Yeah, no, he should just do the boomer shit of making it a lemon. Your name is Lemon. Just be a lemon. You know, you're making it yellow, but just be a lemon. Fuck it. The reason why Tim Scott is saying this, chat, is because even the most sycophantic Republican black conservative cannot accept black people being called a monkey. Like that, I mean, that is below, I mean, even for him, he can't accept that. You know, and he is a sycophant and a collaborator with fascism, but even he can't handle that. So he has to pretend like this is some sort of aberration, even though he knows that it's not. And as I've said before, there are always plenty of people that are ready to sell out. Selling out is not normal. It's actually very common. One of the things that's always funny to me is how many people think being a pick-me and being a sellout is somehow unique. Like, I'm gonna be so successful because I'm gonna be a pick-me and I'm gonna be a sellout. It's like, there's a flood of those people. There's a fucking flood of those people. So many people think not having morality is some sort of massive advantage. There's plenty of people without morality. Most petty criminals have absolutely no morality, yet they're fucking losers. See, what happens is selection bias. You see the sociopaths that rise to the top. You don't see, it's the same thing as winning a lottery ticket. You don't see all the people that are not sociopaths or who are sociopaths and failed. And ultimately what happens when you're a sociopath, when you don't care about anyone else but yourself, is ultimately you fail.
In terms of my supporters backing me up. And so the deletion has nothing to do here in terms of the level of importance. It is truly the unrelenting response that must come from the public, because anything less normalizes this in a way that gives license not to Donald Trump, but to all of his acolytes and sycophants out there who would otherwise seek permission to further denigrate Black people and people in America who are not like them. And that's why our response in this moment is of paramount importance, and it must be unrelenting.
Anna?
You know, so most of the headlines say that it was deleted because of the backlash. And that might be part of it. And if it's backlash, it's a backlash from Republicans. I don't think he cares what Hakeem Jeffries, what you say, what anybody says, other than some Republican. So the fact that Tim Scott, who's been with him through a lot, is speaking out. The fact that Roger Wicker, okay, I mean, that was not on my bingo card, calling out racism. But let's remember, Mississippi has almost 40% Black population. But I think there's something else going on here, because let's remember, this is an administration who won't apologize or delete tweets and truths calling Renee Good and Alex Pretty white domestic terrorists and assassins and what have you. I think the reason, or one of the reasons, the primary reason he took it down is because he was supposed to have a really good press day today. They were supposed to come out with Trump RX. Anything that has the name Trump, he's always real big on. And we were supposed to all be happy with Trump today because we were going to be able to get our weight loss shots for $500 instead of $1,200. And nobody's talking about that because everybody was so shocked by that meme and what we saw. I'll tell you what offends me the most about that meme Yeah, everything is pretty horrible. Seeing, J.B. Pritzker portrayed as an elephant and the Obamas and all that. But that lion that Donald Trump says he is looking pretty healthy. If it's going to be Donald Trump the lion, that lion should have bruises on his paws. Should have.
I don't understand it, man. 1,300 terrorist attacks. Her father did 1,300 terrorist attacks, so they're giggling. Like, can you imagine? God, can you imagine being a Nicaraguan, a family member of somebody who was killed by her father, seeing this stupid fucking shit? All right, when does he argue? I'm gonna move on. When do they argue? It's too boring for me, chat. I need to have Hassan and her arguing about shit.
You gotta be to pretend that kid.
China Glaze? Bro, the American chuds trailing smoke, heading down into the Pacific, and she says over the microphone, "Why'd you think you could win a one circle fight? Ooh, oh shit, dude. Chinese psyop to get me to deflect to the PLA, the People's Liberation. I want to be liberated. I don't know about you folks. Read the caption. Courage, skill, and passion know no gender. Most people don't understand feminism is communist. Feminism is socialist. And there's a lot of liberals who try to cover it up with girl boss feminist capitalism bullshit. But that's a recent innovation. That only existed after the left basically pushed feminism forward for decades. And the Soviet Union was a font of feminism relative to the rest of the world. It was constantly putting pressure on the West to keep up. And it never did, by the way. I like to think the CCP has nothing to do with this. Just some girls had a fun idea. Copycats going to copy. It's never going to be as good as the OG.
70% water and 30% land. But the entire sky belongs to us.
I don't think that's true. That's not true. This is stupid as fuck. Are they trying to say men have higher reaction times and whatnot? China's one-child policy restricted most females to one child. Millions to forced abortions and sterilizations and severe son preference. Result, 20 to 40 million missing girls via sex-selective abortion and infanticide, plus a lasting general and gender imbalance. I will say that I think the one-child policy was the biggest mistake the Chinese ever made. I agree with that. But they got that idea from Westerners. So, it's like that was when they listened to Western expertise. Why are you linking me this? Like, what are you trying to show me? I like heat-sinking missiles. They're cool. True people who pretend they don't have political opinions in 2026? What the fuck's this? All right, let's talk about Emiru for a second. I want to talk about this for a second. I have avoided talking about Emiru because I wanted to give her the ability to come in our direction without being too aggressive. I saw her hanging out more with Cinna. I saw her hanging out with Maya. I've seen her, and I was like, you know what? Let's just let it cook, And then Lakari got caught with child porn, and then Tectone was adjudicated to be a sexual assaulter and a stalker, and then Asmongold called for mass killings and concentration camps, and she said fucking nothing about any of that. And it's like, you've been promoting these people for years. These are your podcast co-hosts. You can't just say nothing. And it's like, okay, at the end of the day. And by the way, I did see this clip because Vio and I talked about it last night, and I was like, what the fuck is going on with Emiru? I was like, what's going on with Emiru? Because Vio knows more about that side of the Twitch than I do. And I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, the worse it looks. If you're Crunchy If you like the outdoors, if you like hiking, if you like going camping and shit, and you live in the Pacific Northwest, I totally get it. Fuck, if you're a chud who loves hunting and outdoor activities, and you live in the forests of Pennsylvania, I could even understand living in PA or Virginia, maybe North Carolina too. Those are all really nice places. Like, I get it. Like, they all have their own charm. But Texas? Texas? You are like, I choose Texas? The only redeeming quality of Texas is it has a lot of cheap land. That's it. Because the land is dog shit. You can't do anything with it. It's all fucking garbage. Flat, cheap land. That's the only reason why people go, like, you afford to live in Texas. But it sucks. There's not one thing that Texas is better at than any other place in this country. Not one thing. Not one thing. You can't say, yep, that's why I live in Texas. Texas has, and then it's the best thing. There's not one thing. There is better barbecue in LA and New York City than Texas. Period. Period. I'd rather go into, by the way, the Gulf states have better barbecue. I'd rather go to some fucking middle of nowhere pit boss in fucking Alabama than Texas. It is the most overrated place on the fucking planet by far. Kansas City has better barbecue. Yes. Calling them Gulf states is hilarious because they are. It isn't that deep. Asmund rates her after almost every one of his streams. No, I'm not even talking about that yet. What about the food? Tex-Mex? I'm sorry, but I'd rather have Mexican food in California than Texas. That's not even a controversial take. Like, I honest to God, by the way, if you think it's so funny when somebody's never been to LA and you know they haven't, because I don't care how much of a snob you are, and I've been all over the world. LA, there's only one place in the world that can really compete with LA on the food level, and it's New York City. And no one can argue with this. It's not debatable. It's not even close to a debatable point. And if you think it is debatable, either you like chicken nuggies for every meal, or you're just not an adult. I mean, maybe Beijing. I haven't been to China yet, so maybe China can compete. I would believe that. The Bay Area has good food too. Oh, I mean, of course. I mean, but it's San Fran can't compete with LA though. Even though I really like San Francisco, I do like the Bay Area. Like, I am one of those. I will say this. I think the Bay Area is actually underrated because it's now so overpriced that it's now like, I mean, it's not worth the cost anymore because all the fucking tech bros went there. So I'm not trying to go around the world and tell you how great everybody is. Back like 25 years ago, the Bay Area was sick. Now it's like not worth. Mike, the rents are finally going down. I mean, but it's like $1 quadrillion to buy a house still. Let me know when it's $600,000 to buy a house, a decent 3-bedroom in San Francisco area again, and then it'll be properly rated. You don't buy, you rent forever, but it's worth to be here still. Anyway, I was just making fun of Texas because she chooses to live in Texas, and there's no reason whatsoever to do that.
You won't even notice the difference. No, I don't think I'll ever move out of America. I mean, maybe, but probably not. Probably not. Okay, since I'm probably gonna stream.
That's how you know conservatism is winning, chat. Conservatism is winning when you're saying how you're considering moving out. When even the most chuddy chud is like, I would consider moving out of America. That's how you know America's being made great again. Everybody just feels so happy under Donald Trump.
Probably start my games and stuff. Should I do Scrandle first? I don't know what that is.
Okay, so she read the chat. Thoughts on ICE. There it is. Okay, there it is, chat. I don't know. Can you see that? What are your thoughts on ICE, Asanet at Emiru? So, people going like, oh my God, I can't believe people are, they won't let her just create content. Guys, they just won't let her create content. These fucking lefties are just constantly, they're just pressuring everybody to constantly talk about politics who doesn't want to talk about politics. Nah, her and her mod did a fucking op. Her and her mod did an op so that she could do some sort of like statement. So she could do some sort of attack on everybody asking people about their opinions on ICE. This was not some sort of like annoying Hassan chatter. This was her head mod. That's what that means. Head mod. So when your head mod is asking you about ICE, like, what does a streamer saying fuck ICE validate? Well, here's the thing. She's a non-white streamer who's friends with a guy saying arrest people for being non-white. That's what's happening in our country. Our people who are not white are getting stopped on the street and asked for their papers. And if they don't have the papers, or if the ICE agent just wants to arrest them, just arresting them and then sexually torturing them in ICE facilities. I don't know if you are aware of that. Your friend is supporting that and saying it's good. So your head mod is asking these questions. Okay, bet. You want us to comment on the fact that every single one of your friends is a pedophile, a rapist, or a Nazi? Like, what's going on here? And I think Sita just came out recently and said, fuck ICE. So I guess they're undermining the, her friend, attacking her friend, tried to clown her friend. Again, head mod. And she decided to read it. So to me, that makes it an op. If your head mod says something and then you call it out and then you go like, I can't believe people are asking me about my opinion. Podcast co-hosts are two of the biggest right-wing grifters on the platform. You associated yourself with them. I didn't make you do it. I'm not going through the Twitch directory and going and interrogating everybody. You're the one who associated yourself with Asmongold, with Tectone, with Lakari. Those are your friends.
Holly, I genuinely have no idea what that is. I don't know what you're talking about. What is Hassan at?
They went to the border wall?
What the heck? Chris, that's crazy. I can't believe they really built a wall.
It's the wall, Chad.
The wall.
The wall.
That's
like,
kind of
is this
really
man-made?
insane. Emily, smile.
Yeah, this might be the most K-Kona W thing we've ever seen.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy.
Crazy.
Oh, the
guards are putting
that's
their hands
crazy.
in Mexico.
Oh wait, yeah, hands in Mexico,
Hands
guys.
in Mexico. Wait, a rock.
We're in Mexico. Wait, can we get a rock?
I'm looking for a rock.
We can get a piece of trash.
Mexico.
Mexico rock. You're beautiful. What? Oh, it's echoes. It like makes
I did it. I found a Mexico rock. This is worth 1,000 Hershey's Kisses.
It is.
It's a rock from Mexico.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And then finally, I'm like, well, guys, okay, I'm gonna go to my room. It's been great. And then Espen's like, okay. And so him and like everyone else who's still there starts to get up. And then suddenly they're leaving. And then Bonnie goes, so guys, what's going on over in Guatemala? And Asmon's like, and then they stay for another like hour. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. But it was fun. I was really glad to have everyone come to. Oh, Guatemala, sorry. Wrong place.
Wow, this got bot downvoted. Why did this get bot downvoted? Why does this have 0 upvotes? What a blessing to be this stupid. I wish I could be this uninformed. She's a shitty person for hanging out with Asmon. The people you hang with are a reflection of you. I don't care what anyone says. You just know the conversation with Asmongold was insufferable slop. You probably crashed out about third world wars, but guys, the Venezuelans are celebrating. I mean, like, isn't Bonnie mentioned by Emiru in that clip part Palestinian? I mean, he called her Palestinian subhuman who deserved to be genocided. God, that's sad, dude. I honest to God, like, it's so weird because I came onto Twitch and I just went with, like, you know, I had some weirdos around me at first, but then I just kind of found the cool normal people and I became friends with them. Is she an Asmon orbiter? I would say that that's probably not completely. I think she's popular in her own right. She's an Asmongold friend and co-worker and supporter, but I wouldn't call her an orbiter. I would say that she's popular in her own right.
TFT, Team Fight Tactics. I don't know how I got involved playing that game.
I don't know how I got involved playing that with that game. Emiru. Man, they play a lot, huh? Offline. They play all night long. Rich Campbell?
What I've been doing on my days off recently is I usually still have to be at my computer to like do like work. I'll just buy my friends. I'll buy them games that I like playing and make them stream it for me on Discord.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I was on a Discord call with somebody. Like, I was like streaming PoE to them. Fucking until 7:30 in the morning, all right? I stayed up so late last night. I played 3 games of Mega Bonk with my friend, and I got on Discord, and I was like, I was screen sharing, and I just kept dying on map 1. I go to S-Fan's party. I haven't really decided yet. I don't know. I'm going to probably lay down, maybe take a nap, and I will be back on tomorrow.
Hello. How's it going? Are we late?
No. Yeah. I'm probably gonna I'll give the second one away to someone. I don't know who yet. I picked this one up last night from the store.
Did you get the Switch too? No, I didn't. I went to it's actually kind of funny. I went to the midnight release of the Switch last night with somebody else, and they got their Switch, but I didn't get my Switch. And so I got home about like probably 3 in the morning almost. No, 2, because I had to do a meeting at 2 a.m.
Actually, I didn't buy it. It was given to me. I have a Switch too, and I will repay that debt.
I got 65 Zach Rar raids.
True simp, absolutely. You want to be a simp for someone who's not your girlfriend? Well, I mean, sometimes maybe to get her, like you gotta capture him, right? It's like like whenever you're hunting and like you're trying to capture like a rabbit, right, or something like that, or a fucking like a raccoon, you could say. You put
Bro. Bro. She's got the Tectone, Asmongold, Rich Campbell, Lakari close friend group. I mean, here's the thing. That's who she chooses to be friends with. Like, that's really it. She chooses to be friends with him. So, I mean, why would that be? I don't know how else to put this, but you have to have some pretty extreme interests in common. And those interests might be dangerous to advertise to other people. So it might be hard to find other people with similar interests. I don't know what those interests might be, but it's either genuine friendship or clout. Which is more humiliating? I don't know. I mean, Asmongold clout. I'm pretty sure she's gotten all the Asmongold clout she can get, right?
Opinions, rare. Ugh. I mean, I've never been someone that gives takes on stream or tries to talk about politics or drama or anything. I've only ever like mentioned anything remotely related to like drama or bad things when it's like I was indirectly involved in some way and I felt like I should. But most of the time I'm like, I don't need to say anything. I don't think anyone even cares. I feel like because I do see people that come into my chat and are like, Emmy, what's your opinion on the war or something? And I'm like, there's no way they actually care what my opinion is. They're just hoping I'll say something fucking stupid so that they can put it on Twitter and they're gonna freaking Asmongold me. Except I don't even know what's going on anywhere, so yeah.
By the way, whatever one of the key like scam artist things is to make the mark think they're smarter than you. I don't believe the I'm dumb bullshit. I see through it. I think it's misogynistic to fall for that. It's the easiest trick in the book. Oh, I just don't know anything. All my friends are just right wingers and creeps. I guess for me, I can't find any other friends. They're gonna freaking Asmongold me is a weird way of putting it. Yeah, what? Quote what you said back to you? My family doesn't have phones, bro. Never watch the news. I think one of the things about this is, why would a person want to be like this? Like, that's really the question that should be interrogated is, you see shit that's fucked up in the world and you don't care even a little bit. You have all this money, you have all this wealth, you have an easy life, and you look out and see fucked up shit and you don't care about it at all. Like, that's the best case scenario. She sucks so bad her entire platform is appealing to incels who fetishize Asian women as being more docile and respecting men. I mean, listen, I haven't watched enough of her content. I'm sure, I respect you, Casey Tron, but I haven't watched any Emiru content. I mean, once I found out she was making a podcast with Tectone and Asmongold, in my mind, she's been a chud for a while. I have other enemies and other things to talk about that are more important. I'm like trying to fight bigger battles. It's not that important to me that I go around being some sort of enforcer on every other streamer. But at a certain point, when your podcast co-host, I don't know what happened with her and Miz. I don't like Miz. I believe the accusations. So because Miz, this isn't the first time that Miz did something fucked up toward a woman. So I'm not a supporter of Miz. I've never talked to him in DMs or whatever. I've never collaborated with Miz. I'm completely disconnected from Miz. Miz is kind of a weird guy. It is what it is. I was supportive of her coming out and speaking out. Meanwhile, her podcast co-host Tectone is being accused by another woman. And it's like, you want to speak out when it affects you, which you obviously should do. But then your podcast co-host is being sued and has now been found liable and you're not even going to say anything? You're not going to say anything? You're not going to say anything for solidarity for women? That's crazy. The podcast co-host left in 2024. Bro, the adjudication was happening. The accusation was made. Now it's been proven true. And he was still part of this. Wasn't she part? Is she still part of Mythic? Mythic Talent Agency. Our creators. All creators. Who the fuck are these people? I guess not, huh? I guess she's not part of it? Mike, can you make sense of the tweet? Clavicular was mid-jester gooning when a group of foids came and spiked his cortisol levels. Is ignoring the foids while munting and mogging moids more useful than SMV Chad fishing in the club? There is some like chill people in here too. This is like so sad. SMV is sexual market value, I think. When she was asked who she voted for.
And me can project their opinion onto me, so I voted for no candidates. Obviously. Yes, obviously. I just don't like talking about. And Nick was asking me yesterday if I'm gonna cover the election today. I was like, yeah, totally. I mean, I guess I'll probably be live long enough that they'll announce who won. Isn't that how it works? That they announce it like tonight, unless like something goes wrong with the votes and they recount or something? No? Oh, okay, never mind. They could. Well, they probably
Gathalion
won't.
is chill as fuck. I've met Gathalion before. He seems like kind of normal. He seems like an actual centrist. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's more progressive. But I get like actual centrist vibes. I've never seen someone obviously playing dumb in my life. I don't get it. Because it's like you hanging out with Asmongold. You're hanging out with Tectone. Like, it's not a secret what you think. Either you're in favor of what they're saying or you don't care at all. And they're calling for people to be hurt. You know that like some illegal immigrants are Asians, right? You know that they're kidnapping Asian people, right? You know they're torturing Asian people, right? You don't think that you could walk down the street and the wrong type of incel ICE agent might grab you up? Oh God, everybody's...
When did people on the right get so soy? You're smearing and defaming by calling someone a chud. No, it tells me everything I need to know about the character of someone who talks about things this way. I don't know why this, I mean, it's intentional ignorance, but that's okay. It tells me everything I need to know about this person. If you are fine with commenting on things you don't know about when it benefits you, when you know your audience will like you talking about it, that's one thing. But then for you to use an opportunity or ignore an opportunity where you could talk about something, maybe your audience doesn't like it, maybe you could educate them on it a little bit, but you choose not to, you're just siding with whatever your chud or chudette audience wants to hear. She's right when she says most streamers are not qualified to talk about politics. Okay, here's the thing, dude. You actually don't have to be qualified to talk about politics to say fuck ICE. It's not that hard of a concept. You know who doesn't do political content? Cutie Cinderella. Cutie Cinderella literally never does political content. And even she's capable of saying fuck ICE. What about Cinna? These are you don't have to be a political creator to recognize that it's not hard to say fuck ICE. And I don't know if you know this. If you're an adult in this country, you should be the minimal amount invested in politics because you live here. There's this weird idea in America, especially, where like you can just be an adult and be like, oh, I don't care about politics. What? If you're above the age of 18, you should care about politics in your fucking country. You don't get to be like, well, I don't agree with this whole taxes thing, so I'm just not going to pay for it. You can't say like, well, I'm just not going to care about all this politics. This is by far like the, I think, dumbest American quality. Saying,
well, by the way, because she's lying, Dedos. She's lying. These are her friends. She's lying. By the way, people didn't ask her about, that's the thing that's even funny. She lied about people asking her. People didn't ask her. Her head mod asked her. Her head fucking mod asked her. That's who asked her. We didn't ask shit. Her head fucking mod did. So what are your thoughts on ICE, Hassanet? Like they do this thing where they pretend like we're all like, oh, the lefties are running around harassing everyone and forcing them to comment on politics, even if they don't want to. And it's like, you mean your head mod sent a fucking pre-planned question that you read out of the chat? There were thousands of other chat messages you could have read, but you decided to read that to attack Hassan while your friends are rapist and fucking Nazi and pedophile. Those are your three closest associates on Twitch. So what the fuck are you pretending like we're chasing you down? You want to fuck with us? You want to attack us because we're standing up for what's right? Defend your position. Make your position known. Come out, speak out, tell us why we're wrong, why ICE is actually based. Don't do this like passive aggressive bullshit with you and your head mod to try to make yourself into a victim like we were doing anything to you. We weren't doing shit to you. In fact, I showed support of you. Hassan showed support of you when you spoke out against Miskiff. What is this nonsense? You didn't show support for Pink. You didn't show support for Pink, and she won a case. It wasn't an accusation. She won her case. She went to court. A judge said she's right. She went to the police. She went to a lawyer. She went to a judge, and she won. And all the police are investigating it. They have, whether they decide to charge or not, it's out of Pink's hands. But she did everything right, and you didn't say shit. And now here you are poking us, saying, "Are you a Hassanet, Emiru? Are you want to speak out against ICE?" You brought it up. You brought it up. Stop acting like a victim. You and your mod. Fake as fuck. Fake as fuck. Desperate. And is there anybody in here who disagrees with me? Is anybody in here going, leave her alone? Like, please. Who's in here who disagrees? Because there's nothing more to say. You left someone out of the picture. Theo with the absolute banger. Her response makes sense when you look at who she hangs around with. Can you imagine if Hassan was hanging out with pedophile, rapist, and a Nazi? A guy who says that Palestinians are an inferior race who should be genocided. And that's not even, she was gaming with Rich Campbell too. I forgot to mention that. This was before the accusations happened. This is before Asmongold came out as a Nazi. This was like 2 years plus ago. And guess what? I didn't make them become Nazis. I didn't make them go down the right-wing pipeline. Are we supposed to be future seers? Will left OTK. And the thing about these fuckers is they like being on the offense. But the moment we look at Destiny, the moment we look at Hutch, the moment we look at Asmongold, the moment we look at Tectone, they're fucking crying and begging on their knees. Asmongold had to give a groveling apology for his ban. He had to crawl on his knees and say how he was going to start cleaning his room and showering more or whatever the fuck. Meanwhile, we've been proven right every step of the fucking way. We haven't had to back down one bit. So what are your thoughts on ICE, Hassanet? It's so dumb. Like, what does a streamer saying "Vuck ICE" validate? It makes no sense. This is her head mod. This is the head mod. That's what that special little icon means. Here is the official Twitch website badges guide, in case you didn't know. Twitch chat badges guide. A lead moderator. A moderator with this icon is the lead moderator of the channel you are currently visiting. Lead moderators have all the abilities of regular moderators, plus additional permissions like managing the mod team, adding, removing VIPs, accessing all channel moderation settings. Lead moderators can choose to display either the lead mod badge or a regular mod badge. So in other words, Emiru's head mod is out here shitting on people for speaking out on ICE. We didn't make her say this. We didn't make her do this. We didn't make her read her head mod's chat. We didn't make you do that. So did I go into your chat, Emiru, and ask you what you think about ICE? And by the way, I guess she's shitting on Cinna because Cinna said fuck ICE, and some of the Asmongold fans were like attacking her on Twitter. So I guess Emiru agrees with those Asmon fans attacking Cinna? Is that what I'm just asking questions now because you started it. So let's go. Let's fucking go. Hassanet is also being used to derogatorily compare her to Hassan. Your head mod, by the way. Oh, I'm such a small bean. Why are people attacking me? I'm such a small bean. Meanwhile, head mod is doing, that's the question she read. So she could do a rant about how streamers are just stupid. Don't ask them questions about politics. Meanwhile, your best friend is Asmongold. Doesn't that, make you think that maybe she's a liar? And they go after Denims again. Convenient target. That person is also a mod for Asmongold. Twitch mod list for Zakrar. Hold on. Let me figure this out. What's their name? Alley Kitty? Where are they at? Oh, there they are. Oh, head mod and mod for Asmongold. And it's completely... Okay, they just play games without any... They just stream the game without any commentary or camera. Okay, cool. So what are we doing here? What are we pretending here? We're a victim. We started the fight. We read a message from our head mod. And now the left is attacking. No, bro, we know what you are. We know what you are. In fact, we were honestly going gentle, and we were not. I wasn't saying shit about Emiru. I wasn't saying shit about Emiru. Hassan wasn't saying shit about Emiru. Even Denim, I mean, I guess Denim said something out. I mean, I spoke out about a lot of people before. I've been speaking out about Asmongold for years.
Don't know what. Oh no, I know what ICE is. I thought. Okay, never mind. You. I do. Like, there's a certain extent where I'm like, okay, sure, I get people wanting big content.
I guess she was playing copyrighted music, so we can't listen anymore to her response. We can't react live. We have copyrighted music that muted the whole thing. I didn't say she was an incel. I said she was a pick-me for incels, which is true. Stay mad. She's not gonna fuck you. By the way, by the way, acting out, like being, when people say pick me, what does that mean? It means that a person acts like a stereo. There's an older word for the concept. It's called a minstrel show. It's basically when a member of a minority group performs out the stereotypes that the majority group imposes upon them for their entertainment. That's called a minstrel show. And so she's doing when we say pick me, we basically mean a woman who's embracing a lot of the like misogynistic tropes about women and using them to curry favor with men. That's really what pick me is. So that's what we're talking about. She sure has associated with a lot of trash over the years. I mean, listen, if you like her, you must like Asmongold, is really what it comes down to. And by the way, it's not that other people haven't tried to be friendly with her. You know, like, there's plenty of people that are not weirdos that would have been friendly with her. She picked Lakari. She picked Asmongold. She picked Tecto. That was her decision. Nobody made her do that. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, what is common about all of those men? Lakari, we know, is, you know, looking at child porn and jailbait. We know that Asmongold is a Nazi. We know that Tectoad is a sexual assaulter who looks at a lot of like lolly shit and gotcha games. It's like, what's going on here? We know Rich Campbell was accused of sexual misconduct. What's going on here? What the fuck is going on here? I kept thinking people were saying pig me. No, pick me. And I want to be fair. I want to be fair to Emiru. Like, I'm not. The thing is, like, I'm sure Emiru will shit on me all day and say how I'm the worst and I'm horrible and I'm evil or whatever. I'm not trying to shit on her. I'm legitimately like, there's no other conclusion we can make. There is no other conclusion we can make. LOL, no one watches you, Mike. Oh, okay. Thank you, tier 3. I'm Trey Conductor. My tier 3 subs, chat. Chat, I have less subs than Emiru. How come I have less simps than Emiru? That's not fair. I should have more simps than Emiru. Raised to 11,000 subs. You should really just shit on her. She sucks. She's kind of just the worst. Okay, here's how I feel. Maybe it's misogynistic of me. I feel like what I'm saying is damning enough. Like, I don't need to go over my skis and start making accusations that are not founded. I could just say the truth. I don't need to say anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is bad enough. If you wear a cowboy hat, I'll sip for you. LOL. I have one in here somewhere. Gotta get denims to upgrade your fits? Oh, fuck, I'll get Vio to upgrade my fits. Well, Vio doesn't, you know. It's Vio's birthday today, chat. I'm not asking Vio to do anything. This is a day to pamper Vio, okay? I'm not asking Vio to do a goddamn thing for me. It's Vio's actual birthday today. And you should tell everyone to raid Vio, by the way. How much was that shirt at Dan Flash's? I actually bought this shirt in Europe when KLM Airlines lost my luggage. They lost my luggage and I had no clothes. And I was going to be in Austria for 30 days. And they found my luggage on day 29. And then they never paid me. I kept requesting constantly for the compensation because they lost my fucking luggage and they never paid me. Although maybe they had paid Vio. I don't know. I'd have to ask her. All right, let's keep going.
Thoughts on Ice Sauna? I don't know what that is. Ali, I genuinely have no idea what that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Can we just say how these people constantly like shit on Hassan like cowardly, as we proved that was her reading her head mod, by the way, also a mod of Asmongold, and they attacked Hassan. It wasn't some random chatter, it was her head fucking mod. Again, head mod.
Don't wait too late.
What is Hassan at?
No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna
don't know what. Oh no, I know what Ice is. I thought. Okay, never mind. That's you.
One more time. One more time. celebration.
Did you see how JD Vance fucked up Alyssa Liu's gold medal? Oh my god, dude. That's, oh my god. He's such a fuck up, dude.
I do, like, there's a certain extent where I'm like, okay, sure, I get people wanting big content creators to like say their opinions on like important topics. I get that, right? But it's like, if you need a streamer who doesn't even know anything about politics to tell you about politics, you probably just need to like get off the internet. Like, stop. Like hello. Like what?
So you think that no one should watch Asmongold? You think no one should be watching Asmongold? Say that. Say, for example, Asmongold's my friend, and if you watch him, you're a fucking idiot. That's what you should say, right? Say, don't watch Asmongold. He fucking sucks.
How am I gonna? I don't know.
So we live in what's known as a democracy, chat. And in a democracy, all adults have the ability to vote for our political leaders, right? Now, there's a lot of problems with American electoral system. It's super anti-democratic in a lot of ways. It blocks reasonable progress. The parties are intentionally designed to suck shit because of corporate money. But every adult at least has the right to show up at the polls who's a citizen of this country and cast a ballot. And I don't know about you, but our country has a lot of fucking problems that are apparent to me. And I want them fixed. I also don't like my tax dollars that I'm forced to pay going to fucking Israel to kill kids, or going to dumb fucking wars in the Middle East or Venezuela or Cuba or China. I'm tired of mass thugs getting $170 billion while my roads are choked with congestion, trash, potholes. I'd like to have my society clean the fuck up. That would be nice. And with all the money that's taken out of my bank account, how about I get something for that money?
We're gonna celebrate,
I don't know.
celebrate and dance so free. One more time.
Get help. Like, even like, I don't know. Like, obviously I don't like dislike any of the political streamers except for like some of like the really bad ones. I don't really like them. But it's like, I don't understand how in the first place people care so much what they say. I guess just because they just have a lot of reach or influence, but it's like, why are you listening to them in the first place? I don't know. Anyway, pie mash and liquor with no liquor. What the fuck?
Guys, my closest friend who rated me 65 times and who I have podcast with is one of the country's largest right-wing grifters. But why do you care about what streamers say about politics? I think one of the things that's really important to understand here is, like, we are at an election where Donald Trump was elected in large part because of things like podcasters and streamers. And before podcasts and streamers, there was radio, talk radio, and cable news. There's always been people talking about politics. Also, what would qualified mean to you? Liquor or no liquor on your pie mash? Obviously, you go with the liquor. Like, what are you talking about? These are dry as fuck. And they're probably under-seasoned.
I guess I'd pick the with the liquor. Because this just looks dry. Those mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I guess she's got some good takes in there as well. Seems like you can look at information and come out to a conclusion. I don't think you're qualified to evaluate the pie mash.
Potatoes just looks like dry ice cream. What? Okay, I fucked up, I guess. I guess people don't.
Oh, they're British people, though. They obviously don't want to have flavor. All right, I think that's everything I needed to see in the VOD. All these people want is validation. Don't capitulate to them. It's not about validation. It's about, should I support someone who supports ICE? And all your friends support ICE. So do you support ICE? Because I don't support them. I don't want to accidentally support any more right-wing content creators because we have some evil shit happening in our country, and I don't want to support people that are behind it. It's not that complicated, folks. Not that complicated. It's pretty fucking easy. Mike, do Scrandle? I don't even know what Scrandle is. What the fuck is Scrandle? What is superior? Bolton Wanderers. Where are we at? England. So we have savory Asian pancakes stuffed with shredded chicken, potato, and carrot, or margarita pizza with ham. I mean, if it's me, there's no fucking way I'm picking. Oh man, this looks so bad, dude. I'm going with the pizza. Macaroni cheese with crispy onions and bacon, or chicken wing and rice for 30 cents or 30 pound cents. What exactly am I trying to do? What does scran mean? Am I supposed to pick the one I want to eat more? I mean, obviously mac and cheese. Thank God, Jesus. This is so hard because it's British. Beef short rib bowl or pie mash and liquor. So how highly do British people rate this versus how high do Canadian people rate this? Is that what we're doing? You're stuck at a footy match with 50 quid and can only find these options. What do you get? I mean, if it's me, I'm going for that. Sausage and bread with no mustard, or beef stew with horseradish and herb dumpling. Oh, easy that. Yeah, not even close. Easy clap. Korean fried chicken or fish and chips. Oh, Korean fried chicken every time. Are you okay? French hot dog or sausage? I'm sorry, I'm going with the Germans know how to make a good sausage. That's the one thing. Donor meat and chips or currywurst and beer. VO is gonna be so mad at me. I'm going with the donor. Oh, I was gonna go with the currywurst. I should have went with my instincts. I'm half Scottish. I should go with my instincts. Pickled pork or chili chicken wrap. Is it raw? Is that raw? Okay. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Not bad. Not bad. Pretty good. All right. I think I've said my piece on Emiru, right? Like, popular YouTuber Smosh comes out. Hey, it's actually super easy to have stream and have opinions. I'll show you. Fuck ICE. Fuck Donald Trump and everyone in his administration. Fuck Elon Musk. Free Palestine. U.S. has stolen land built by stolen people. Luigi did nothing wrong. Abortion is healthcare. Leave trans people the fuck alone. Woke 2 is back, baby. Woke 2 is back. Thank you, Major Tom.
TFT, team fight tactics. I don't know.
Yeah, we saw this already. We already understand. Here's what you need to know about this dipshit grifter view botter called Emiru. Her friend podcast co-host Asmongold is a shut-in Nazi view botter. True. Her friend podcast co-host Tech Toad is a rapist who can't own a gun in Texas for 10 years. He's also a view botter. Her friend Lakari is a pedophile. And, you know, I don't know. I don't have direct evidence that he's a view botter, but he seems to be very untalented. So he sounds like a view botter to me. And her other friend is Rich Campbell. So it's like pedophiles, Nazis, and sexual assaulters. What a friend group. What a friend group. Excuse me, chat. I'm sick.
Fucking food under a box, right? And then, like, as soon as they get in the box, you get the box, right? I hate to say this, but if you're lying to a girl, the best way to do it is to emotionally manipulate them. If you can activate their emotions on something, you can tell them anything that they want to hear.
I'd be like if you're openly best buds with Subway guy Larry Nassar Trump, and then we see you in the Epstein files. At a certain point, it's not just bad judgment. Oh, it's not bad judgment. She is, I don't know why, but Emiru is attracted to that group. And I don't know what it is about, like what shared thing they have in common. You know, typically when somebody is friends with people and you're like, I just don't know why, it typically means they have some sort of like common interest that's not, you know, it's a little bit illicit. You're not allowed to like talk about it. You're not, you know, so it's hard to find a friend group. I wonder what that could be. All right, chat. Noah Samson has a new video called The Gaza Ceasefire Lie that I wanted to check out. Noah Samson, Noah Samson, Noah Samson. Noah Samson. When am I playing Europe Universalis? There we go. Europa Universalis 5, 6 times the charm. Every time I sit down to play it, they have a new patch that breaks everything, and I don't know what to do.
Genocide. For 2 years straight, we watched Israel commit genocide in Gaza. We watched as they killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people, tortured them, starved them, locked them into cages, and opened fire. On this tiny strip of land, of which half of the population is children, they dropped the equivalent of 13 nuclear bombs. They tried to erase Gaza, and the world watched. But one day, late last year, the bombing stopped. A ceasefire had been reached. The agreement, backed by the United States and signed by Israel and Hamas on October 10th, calls for the exchange of hostages, the suspension of all military operations, and the commencement of the full entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Soon after its implementation, hostages and prisoners were released. Some Palestinians would attempt the journey home. Many would return to find that there was nothing left. So was this it? Was the genocide over? Did we finally achieve peace? And well, no, not exactly. In the 4 months since the ceasefire was signed, Israel has killed over 500 Palestinian people, men, women, and children. They've wounded thousands more with their snipers, their drone strikes, their tank shelling, and their aerial bombardment. The IDF has continued its campaign of mass destruction in Gaza, blowing up everything in sight, demolishing thousands of buildings with explosives and bulldozers. They've also continued their brutal strangulation at the crossings, restricting the entry of vital humanitarian aid and all the other basic necessities required to sustain life. The genocide did not end. It continued, only this time slower and quieter. Gaza's corpses have been hidden under the shroud of peace talks. The violence described now not as massacres or war crimes, but as incidents and tests which underscore the fragility of the ceasefire. In the past 2 years, Israel has been systematically destroying the Gaza Strip. By October of last year, it was estimated that they damaged or destroyed over 83% of the buildings. And during the ceasefire, the destruction has continued. Since October, the Israeli military has demolished over 2,500 buildings, including entire neighborhoods. In some areas, they are clearing out the rubble to dig barriers and build military outposts. The Gaza Ministry of Health estimates that at least 10,000 Palestinians...
And we're all paying for that, by the way.
...are missing under the rubble. Many of these structures harbor their remains. Israel's demolitions make the task of their eventual recovery potentially impossible, as many of these remains are being excavated and removed, in essence, erasing these people from existence. According to the UN, the volume of rubble in Gaza has exceeded 60 million tons. That is roughly 20 times the amount that's been removed in the prior 15 years of Israel's many violent assaults on the territory. With 100 trucks running around the clock, clearing out the debris would still take decades. But if Israel continues its restrictions on the entry of equipment necessary for rebuilding, the process would take over a century. And that's the next
piece. These structures are so dangerous too, they could collapse at any moment.
Piece of the ceasefire violation puzzle here, the blockade. The ceasefire requires that Israel immediately allow the full entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza, but the restrictions have continued. Tens of millions of dollars in humanitarian aid sit at the border awaiting Israeli approval. Israel is blocking the entry of basic supplies to live, like fuel for heating and cooking, batteries to power devices, and solar panels to charge those batteries. This includes thousands of temporary housing units. With over 1 million Palestinians...
Chad, I made one more tweet about Emiru. It's weird because it was her head mod that asked her about ICE while attacking Assad. Did she set this up with her head mod to open an attack on the left for coming after her when no one even asked? It's not my fault all your closest friends are Nazis or sex abusers / criminals. I just want to make sure that that narrative, the narrative that we went after her or some shit, nipped in the bud. I want everybody to understand that, no, it was actually her head mod is injecting herself into this conversation to go like, ooh, I'm such an apolitical innocent, ooh. Nah, that was you and your head mod.
Displaced and forced into makeshift tent cities, severe storms have caused major flooding. Even in breaks between the rains, the flooding lingers, as most of Gaza's drainage infrastructure has been destroyed by Israeli bombardment. The lack of shelter and fuel for heating, combined with the harsh winds, rain, and flooding, are leaving people susceptible to hypothermia. Dozens of Palestinians have frozen to death since the ceasefire began, including at least 10 babies. Infant death from exposure and normally preventable diseases has been dubbed wet tent syndrome, where these brutal living conditions are leaving people vulnerable.
You should have also said they were Asmod's mod. Well, put that in the replies. I only have so much characters.
To respiratory illnesses, including infections, bronchitis, pneumonia, and worsening asthma. The supplies necessary for rebuilding existing structures are also being restricted for entry, denying Palestinians the ability to make even the most basic repairs to their destroyed homes, such as filling cracks from the bombings, which have begun leaking water during these storms. A combination of restrictions on the entry of medicine with the destruction of sewage and waste treatment infrastructure has created the ideal conditions for the spread of infectious diseases. This has turned otherwise survivable injuries and illnesses into potentially fatal conditions. Access to landfills is being blocked by Israeli occupation, resulting in an estimated 700,000 tons of solid waste piling up in the Gaza Strip, with no means of exit. Some families are being forced to live in the immediate vicinity of these piles of garbage and toxic waste, and are reporting constant sickness and the inability to consume food due to the smell. Israel's restrictions on the border go both ways. There are currently at least 16,000 Palestinians in need of urgent medical evacuation, including 4,000 children. Israel is blocking these requests. With a healthcare system decimated by Israeli bombs and the blockade, if they aren't able to exit, many of these people will die. On New Year's Day, the Israeli government voted to suspend the operations of 37 aid NGOs in Gaza, including Doctors Without Borders, one of the largest and longest running of these organizations. This ban restricts both the amount of aid entering Gaza and also the direct humanitarian work these NGOs do, like distributing that aid, building water infrastructure, and providing healthcare services. Along with this ban, Israel is continuing its ban on UNRWA, the largest and longest operating organization dedicated to providing aid for Palestinian refugees. These restrictions are also nothing new. Israel has been crippling the organization for decades. In the last 2
Did you talk about ICE being sent to Italy for Olympic security? It makes no sense. Oh, wait till Forders are here for the World Cup. Wait until, oh my God, wait until that happens.
years alone, they've mass murdered its workers and targeted their facilities over 1,000 times. Israel's blockade around Gaza is the largest contributor to indirect deaths. That is, deaths from causes beyond just traumatic injury, like disease, starvation, and hypothermia. In comparison with other modern conflicts, indirect deaths almost always make up a far greater proportion of the death toll than direct violent deaths. The figure can be anywhere from 2 to 16 times higher. The official Palestinian death toll in Gaza, the one most often cited by the media, currently sitting at just under 72,000, does not account for these sorts of indirect deaths. When they are factored in, credible estimates have placed the death toll in Gaza in the hundreds of thousands, with some as high as 680,000, nearly a third of the pre-war population, with hundreds of thousands of these deaths being children under the age of 5. This is Sundus Hillis. She's 6 years old. 3 weeks into the ceasefire, while she was playing with her friends at a wedding, Israeli snipers shot her in the head. The bullet wound left her with permanent brain damage and partial blindness. She is unable to move freely. Sundus requires medical evacuation for proper treatment, but like thousands of other Palestinians, Israel is denying her exit. This is Fadi and Juma Abu Asi. 2 months into the ceasefire, these two boys, ages 8 and 10, went to gather firewood for their father. Both of the boys were killed in an Israeli drone strike. Their father described the scene arriving at the hospital. "I removed the shroud and hugged them. My little Juju's head was blown off. His arms were severed and parts of his torso gone. God rest his soul." A week later, Israeli soldiers gunned down 16-year-old Zahir Nasser Shamia. As he lay dying, they denied him medical care, and then they ran him over with a tank. He was killed instantly. This is Mohammed Bakr, a 35-year-old Palestinian fisherman. 3 months into the ceasefire, Israeli gunboats killed him while he was out fishing. He was killed in full view of a crowd of people on the beach. His funeral was attended by hundreds of Palestinians.
Well, yeah, they're trying to starve them, so they don't want people to go out and fish for their own food. They kill fishermen to prevent any food coming in.
This is Mustafa and Nesma al-Borsh. For years, they delayed their wedding due to displacement and grief from the genocide. But with the recent ceasefire in place, they finally decided to get married. During their ceremony, Israeli tanks fired on a building next door, a school sheltering displaced Palestinians. The explosion killed 6 people, including an 8-year-old boy and a 4-month-old baby. The 8-year-old that was killed was Mustafa's nephew. This handful of stories represents just a fraction of the people that have been killed and wounded by Israel during the so-called ceasefire. If we were to give voice to all of them, this video would need to be hours long. So, with all that in mind, the mass killing, the destruction, and strangulation inflicted upon Palestinians by the Israeli military in the last 3 months, one might wonder how the word ceasefire is still being used at all. Well, for starters, these ceasefires don't end just because violations are committed. They're only officially broken when the violence returns to what it was before the ceasefire. But who decides when that happens? Well, Israel does. That's how it was with previous ceasefires, and that's how it's always been. The ceasefire is over when Israel wants it to be, when they want to kill 500 people, not every few months, but every few days. In the meantime, though, until they make that decision, the ceasefire illusion must be maintained, and to that end, Israel has invented a number of pretexts. The first pretext concerns the yellow line. The yellow line is the boundary between areas marked for Israeli withdrawal and areas in which Israeli troops are still active on the ground, demarcated by this map from the October ceasefire agreement. Many of Israel's mass killings of Palestinians have occurred on or near this yellow line, with the IDF claiming to be targeting suspicious individuals that pose threats to its soldiers by approaching or crossing the line. So, by opening fire, Israel is actually ceasing fire, by preemptively preventing Hamas from firing. But, as history shows, for the Israelis, Palestinians become immediate threats the moment they are born. Fadi and Juma Abu Asi, the 8 and 10-year-old boys collecting firewood for their disabled father, they were 2 of these so-called immediate threats. According to the IDF, they were suspects conducting suspicious activities, guilty of the crime of breaching an invisible line. When Israel killed 11 members of the Abu Shaban family by blowing...
I mean, like, can you imagine that happening to you and what you would want to do for revenge? Like, do you understand what you would do, what you would want to do for revenge? I mean, just hearing the story makes me want revenge. You know what I mean? And like, I just sit here and I say anything. Why aren't content creators being perma-banned for coming up Israel's crimes? Because the United States of America is the one doing the crimes. And I think one of the lessons that's the hardest to learn in life, it is a moment of profound maturity that we need more of on the left, is that the universe is atheistic, uncaring, and justice is something that we have to actively create. Justice is like a campfire. It doesn't exist just because you're cold. In order for justice to exist, we must gather the firewood, and we must constantly and continually maintain it. It doesn't exist just because you think it ought to exist, or it would be helpful to exist, or humanity would be better off if it did exist. It exists only as so far as you and I fight to maintain it. The other lesson you should learn is there's a lot of people with buckets of water running at justice to douse it. So gathering firewood, poking at the fire isn't enough. You have to actively hunt down and destroy the people that are trying to snuff it out. We call them capitalists. We call them right-wingers. And that is reality. Now, when we look on this at our sense of justice, our sense of wrongness is aroused. That is simply a feeling of self-preservation in your heart. You understand that what they do to Palestinian babies, they could do to you. What they do to Palestinian civilians, they can do to you. The lawlessness, the murder, the rape, the slaughter, the perfidy, the surveillance, the destruction, they are willing to do. So if you let them do that to Palestinians, it's one giant step toward the same oppression being levied against you. And we're seeing it on the streets of Minneapolis. We're seeing it on the streets of Los Angeles. There's a reason why ICE is trained by Israel.
Up their bus as they drove in search for the home they'd been displaced from, they were potential terrorists operating a suspicious vehicle. 7 children were killed in this attack. The youngest child, Ibrahim, was just 5 years old. The blocks that Israel has deployed to mark the yellow line have large gaps between them, and they're constantly moving. Whether or not Palestinians are actually breaching the yellow line is ultimately irrelevant though, of course, as we've seen countless massacres and demolitions occurring outside of the yellow line, in so-called safe zones. When Israeli snipers shot 6-year-old Sundus Hillis in the head, she was playing at a wedding in the Daraj quarter, a neighborhood that's miles inside the yellow line. When Israel attacked the school shelter right next to Mustafa and Nesma al-Borsh's wedding, witnesses described seeing the Israeli tank advance over the yellow line before firing on the young couple and their families. Israel's assassination of 3 Palestinian journalists last week occurred in a densely populated refugee camp 5 kilometers from the yellow line. The same is true for Israel's continued destruction of Gaza's buildings. Analysis of satellite imagery shows entire neighborhoods being flattened in areas outside of the yellow line. Some of the excuses provided for these violations are as elementary as they are genocidal. The IDF has admitted to demolishing buildings over the line, but denies that these constitute violations, claiming that soldiers bombed them without technically stepping foot over the line. Israel's other pretext for these attacks is that they are retaliatory, that Hamas is committing violations too, so they're not doing anything out of the ordinary, anything that jeopardizes the ceasefire. The press then validates this claim, citing reports of accusations on both sides.
Israeli strikes have killed more than 300 Palestinians, including more than 60 children during this ceasefire. And Michelle, I know that sounds contradictory. We're talking about a ceasefire and there are still so many people being killed. As you said, both sides have accused each other of violations.
This phrase often comes in.
So wait a minute. We have 300 corpses on the one side, and on the other side, you don't have anything. So you just say accusations on both sides?
Immediately following reports of Israeli violations, ones that are factually undisputed. This contrasts with the accusations against Hamas, the vast majority of which are either fabrications, misrepresentations, or procedural disputes that fall outside the scope of the ceasefire's terms. Hamas was accused of a violation for failing to return all of the Israeli captives within the 72-hour window laid out in the ceasefire. But the agreement does not call for the immediate return of every missing person. It calls for the return of the Israelis in Hamas's possession. Some of the remains of the Israeli captives were missing, and given the sheer scale of Israel's destruction of Gaza, it was clear from the start that locating these remains would take time. This fact was accounted for in the text of the agreement. When footage surfaced of Hamas executing Palestinians who'd collaborated with Israel, they were accused of violating the ceasefire. But the agreement signed does not dictate Palestinian internal affairs, such as dealing with genocide collaborators, nor does it require Hamas to lay down its arms. With this agreement, disarmament wasn't on the table.
NPR did a hit piece at Zoran that why hasn't he solved homelessness yet? It's been a month.
Was accused of a violation when 2 IDF soldiers were killed in Rafah in October. In reality, these soldiers were killed when an Israeli bulldozer ran over unexploded ordnance left there by Israel. This was confirmed by reports on the ground, and it was also corroborated by Donald Trump and the Pentagon. The only confirmed killings of IDF soldiers by Hamas have occurred in areas controlled by Israel where resistance fighters have been cut off for months. These fighters are not acting under the orders of Hamas leadership, and that's according to both Hamas and Donald Trump and the Pentagon. But even if we take all of these accusations at face value, even if we grant that the ceasefire's terms said something other than what they said, thus implicating Hamas in all of these violations, there's still no comparison to be made here. Killing soldiers of a genocidal army invading your country is not aggression, it is self-defense. If the terms of the ceasefire are unable to make this distinction, to tell the difference between genocide and resistance to it, then what's the point of even calling it a ceasefire? There is no ceasefire, and there never was. It was always a lie. The ceasefire lie has several functions. First, it reinforces the false conflict narrative. Ceasefire implies the existence of 2 armies fighting a war, but what's happened in Gaza is not a war, and there are no both sides to genocide. There is a victim and a perpetrator. The only war here is Israel's war against the existence of Palestinians. In addition, the ceasefire lie.
I live in a rich, white, relatively well-functioning country. We have many issues, historic and modern. If anything like this happened in Norway, we'd have full mobilization, be a war footing within 6 hours. Hundreds of thousands of trained men and women would be going to war. It would be very costly for any aggressor, but we are inside NATO, so it's unthinkable. Mostly concerned about what the U.S. might do in the next few years. That is the only threat. What I would tell you is, if the United States of America decided we wanted to destroy Norway, we would. I need you to know that. I need you to know, and I need you to dispense with any kind of nationalistic delusion that you would be able to stand up to the United States. Norway could not defeat the United States of America if the United States of America decided they wanted to demolish Norway the same way they did it to Gaza. I'm sure there would be many heroic stands and painful casualties inflicted on the U.S., but ultimately the same result would happen to you unless you can build a comprehensive deterrent that is credible. You're just as much of a under risk as any of us. I think one of the things about World War II that people kind of, since we won, since the Allies won World War II, the Soviets liberated Berlin and ended the Holocaust, and America mostly romped over reserve forces and eager to resign and surrender to the West. Americans think of World War II and they see the triumphant liberations. That's the thing that plays in your mind. when you think of World War II. Maybe a little bit of the camps, the skeletons being liberated by various Allied forces. You don't think about what it was like for 6 years of Nazi domination. You don't think about the millions of Nazis who got away with it. You don't think about the fascists who were able to walk away scot-free to move to America and live that nice suburban life right next to you. Justice was not done after World War II. 1v1, every country loses to the US? No. China would beat the US 1v1. Like, if you're just talking about a conventional war 1v1, the United States of America, assuming the war is the US is trying to take over China. Like, assume that's the war. America aggressing on China. There's no fucking way. The US would have to escalate to nuclear weapons. China has a large number of nuclear weapons themselves. That's the end, you know, Fallout universe. In a conventional war, the United States would be cleaned up relatively quickly. And just how far China wants to pursue, you know, retaliation would be the question. Would the United States invade South Korea? Would the United States, would China invade South Korea? Would China invade the Philippines? Would China try to invade the home islands of Japan? Like, that's the real question. That would be, and of course, that would no longer be a 1v1. Because, like, if you're saying 1v1, how does the United States even fighting China? They would need to have local allies that they're based on. Like, if they're just, like, trying to sail aircraft carriers, they'd get fucking swatted down very easily. If they're trying to fight from Japan, if they're trying to fight from South Korea, well, then it's no longer a 1v1. And even then, I don't think South Korea or Japan wants to fight China. They're not suicidal.
Has acted as a vehicle for coercion by convincing the world that things have improved, that barring some tests of its fragility, the ceasefire exists and is holding. Israel and its backers have been able to pressure governments into accepting their terms, lest they be seen as obstacles to peace. This pressure contributed to the approval of UN Security Council Resolution 2803, which granted legitimacy to Donald Trump's 20-point so-called peace plan. The approval of this measure, a move described by experts as a declaration of war on Gaza and a death sentence for international law, sets a legal precedent for the destruction of Palestinian self-determination in Gaza. It establishes the so-called Board of Peace, granting governance of Gaza to a group of politicians and real estate developers.
These are basically just every single one of Israel's like, you know, who can we corrupt, basically, and who is desperate to get prestige. The Board of Peace, which has a logo showing America, the North America, like, how the fuck does that make sense?
Whom are Palestinian, and some of whom have spent their lives vying for the extermination of Palestinians, namely Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The so-called Board of Peace is set to oversee the construction of a new Gaza, with plans to build highly valuable AI data centers, beachfront resorts, and fun pockets of coastal tourism. These plans don't forget about Palestinians, though. Those who aren't forcibly expelled from Gaza will have the opportunity to live in what the plans call humanitarian cities, Israeli-controlled areas complete with checkpoints, biometric surveillance, purchase monitoring, and educational programs promoting normalization with Israel. The third function of the ceasefire lie.
Could someone find me a clip of Jake Paul getting his ass beat? Thank you. I need to do a quote tweet. Could someone find me a clip of Jake Paul getting his ass absolutely fucking beat? Thank you.
And perhaps the most significant is that it has helped turn the world's attention away from Gaza. The Israelis have always taken global perception into account when calculating the amount of bloodshed they wish to inflict on the people of Gaza. And depending on the number of people watching, they adjust that killing dial accordingly. When 120 million people had their eyes on the 2024 Super Bowl, the most watched TV event of that year, Israel launched a bloody assault on Rafah that killed over 100 Palestinians. The attack came almost exactly 30 minutes after the opening kickoff, and also at a time where ceasefire talks had reportedly been progressing. When the world was watching Barack Obama's election night coverage in 2008, then the most viewed election of all time, Israel attacked Gaza, breaking the ceasefire, resulting in Operation Cast Lead, at the time Israel's bloodiest and most destructive incursion into the Strip to date. Their current campaign of mass killing and destruction is a continuation of this phenomenon. By keeping the number of dead Palestinians at a level consistent with previous periods of so-called peace, Israel can complete its ethnic cleansing project without all that pesky international condemnation. Ethnic cleansing has always been a requirement for Israel's existence. The founders of Zionism said so over a century ago. We must expel Arabs and take their places. The Arabs will never voluntarily consent to the transformation of Palestine into a Jewish state. The Arab problem is one of the most difficult problems. The only way out is transfer. And fast forward till today, that goal has not changed. We must reduce the number of Palestinian citizens in the Gaza Strip to the minimum possible. Israel is destroying homes in Gaza so that Palestinians have nowhere else to go. When we understand this fact, that ethnic cleansing has always been a requirement for Israel's existence, then the violence we're currently seeing makes sense. It's not just cruel for cruelty's sake, it's perfectly rational. If you want a group of people to leave an area, then this is what you do. Terrorize them, massacre them, deprive them of basic necessities after destroying everything they need to live. The last Israeli held in Gaza was returned to Israel over a week ago, but of course Israel's killing sprees have continued. The Israelis have already gone back on their agreement to begin the rebuilding process and open the crossings. Despite widespread reporting of the so-called lifeline, that is, the Rafah crossings opening, the mass denials of exit and entry continue. This is because when Israel signed the ceasefire, they were lying. This was never about freeing the hostages, it was never about Hamas, it was about rendering the Strip uninhabitable and forcing them to make a choice. Leave Gaza or stay and die. And by repeating the ceasefire lie, the most powerful media companies in the world are helping Israel accomplish this goal. Alright, that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys thought. Please support my friend Ahmed's fundraiser. I'll leave it linked below. I know it's been a super long time since you've seen me. It's been over almost 6 months since I've uploaded. And I'm sure I'll talk about why and what I've been up to at some point in the near future. In the meantime though, if you want to support the show, check out my Patreon, which is also linked below. Only go there if you've donated as well. And I'll see you all so soon for another video. Goodbye.
I really like Noah, dude. I know we finally collabed on his stream, but I'm a big Noah Samson simp. I think that it's fucking really powerful that he's dedicated his platform. Sorry, I'm sick as fuck. To this shit. Like, that is such moral clarity, and he's such a cool guy. So I'm always there to support him. So make sure you are there too. Make sure you're subscribed. Paul getting his ass kicked. He got counted out. He was counted out. Oh, mamma mia! I thought they TKO'd him. He was counted out. Holy moly. Oh, 7, 8, 9. Mamma mia! Oh, there's a left hook. Oh my God. Seeing Jake Paul fighting an actual boxer, I haven't been following boxing as much lately, Chad. I used to really be in it. I used to box as well. But that was 23 years ago. It's been a while since I boxed, but I used to box. Honest to God, there is no amount of money that would make me take that hit. I honestly, there's no amount of money. Honestly, he's lucky he hit him in the jaw. If he had hit him in the temple, I think he might be dead. At least the jaw could break. Ladies and gentlemen, he finds the range with his jab. It's really more like like he's settling him down. He's finding the range, and then he just drops his guard. He's unguarded because he understands how Paul is just completely defenseless. How is he this defenseless? He's leaning on the corner. He is completely defenseless. He's just going like that. Did he break his rib or something? What does Emiru title mean? We just talked about Emiru being a complete embarrassment to the streaming profession and refusing to just say what they believe. It's not that hard. And every one of their friends being a fucking Nazi or a pedophile or a sex criminal, which is fucking weird. All I know is, like, when I see Jake Paul, like, honest to God, dude, like, look at the way he's leaning forward. So all of his weight of his entire body, the coiling, is actually concentrated on the point of his fist. He's actually dropped all defense and he's in full-blown offense. If Jake had slipped this, he could have gotten fucked up, but he's so confident that Jake is down. He's like in power-up mode. He's like, woo, 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 woo. It's like, this isn't even really a punch at this point. This is more punishment. And then Jake just goes right down. It's like all of the tension in all of his muscles, his legs go wobbly, and he's just down. Like, just and then he's just sitting there. He's sitting upright, and he's just nodding. He's not even trying to get up. I want you to understand that in a boxing match, seeing a man sitting down, holding his knees like this, like, what the fuck? That's crazy. I mean, the referee is counting in his face. He didn't even try to move until 8. He didn't even try to move till 8. Now, in order for you to be considered to be stood up, you have to have your gloves in a boxing position by the time he hits 10. He couldn't even lift his arms. He was so beat. Holy shit. Anyway, going over the Jake Paul getting knocked the fuck out. Wow, please shut the fuck up. From all true Americans, if you don't want to represent this country, go live somewhere else. Did you guys hear about how somebody left to represent China? Born and bred American is now representing China.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting here. It brings up...
Nedge, 4 years of socialist radicalization. Who is our newest Romeo, Order of Romeo member? If you, chat, make sure that if you get the Order of Romeo, I individually thank you. If you've been here for more than 5 years, make sure I've thanked you. I want to make sure that I do. K-State Nate, Unit Operations, Xanadu. I've thanked Battlebox Champion, haven't I? Well, thank you guys. How can this make you mad? This is the most normal thing to say ever. Like, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on I'm not happy with, but I love America because of my friends and family. Who gives a fuck? Why would you even make a tweet about this, you fucking bitch? What a complete fucking loser. Oh my god, dude. He broke the front of his jaw, dude. I've never... Oh, God. God, dude, you could get into a car accident and this not happen. Double break. Gee, the front came off. This is why boxing scares me. Yes, no shit. No fucking shit. Bro is gonna have an Everlast tattoo on the cheek. Jesus. Anthony got into a car accident after this fight. His trainer and best friend died. What the fuck? That's horrible. What's the worst I've been injured? I broke my collarbone. I got a concussion. I smacked my head in an accident. What else? I was punching someone and I broke... you can't really see it. I was punching someone and I broke their tooth into my hand. Let me see if I can... That fucked my hand up pretty bad. Here, let me see if I can show you. Lower the gain. I need to do focus. Maybe you can see it. You can't see it. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can get my camera control. Maybe I can show you. I broke my collarbone in 3 places playing rugby. I broke my collarbone playing ice hockey. I got hit after the whistle. So my guard was down. I got hit after the whistle and it broke my collarbone. Fucking super annoying. Whatever. I'll show you at some point. Those are my worst injuries. I got a black eye. That's not... Who hasn't... If you haven't gotten multiple black eyes... Oh, I also broke my nose a couple times. I broke my nose once fighting in high school, and I broke my nose in ice hockey, as you can tell. And I already had a big nose before that. My collarbone has a bullet stuck in it. It's just floating. Like, I have, like... My collarbone has got a big knob in it. The violent left. I mean, I was pretty violent growing up. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I was pretty violent. But the thing is, when you're smart, they let you get away with it. The hard part of a broken nose is not getting it broken, which is pretty painful. No, it has to go back into place. My breaks were not that bad. My breaks were not that bad. It was like a couple hairlines. Like, I can breathe out of both of my nostrils, I think. My son broke my nose by kicking me on accident when he was a toddler. Oof. Critical hit. Critical hit. See, back in the 90s, chat, we had a different worldview about violence. When you were a boy in the 90s, they encouraged you to commit violence. Oh, is somebody being mean to them? Mean to you? Punch them in the face. So I did. What do you mean, nah? Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It wasn't until the 2000s that they started going like, violence is unacceptable. Zero tolerance. The 80s were worse. Oh, of course. I'm sure the 80s were even more insane. All of my best friends are people I've punched directly in the face. That's I think I mostly avoided punching my friends in the face. But we definitely pushed each other around. Some shitty ass kid talked to my mom in class when I was a kid. I rocked a shit full view of the teacher and I got a slap on the wrist. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. I'm not saying that I like that. I'm not saying I like that. That's the way it was. I'm not saying it's good. Do I have the ability to let us bet on stuff with channel points? Oh, did you see Polymarket down here? And then you're like, I gotta gamble. I have to gamble. Oh, please, Mike, let me gamble. Gamble right now. Also, I really like this GIF. I'm just a black lab guy. I really like black labs. Having a big black dog who's chill as fuck. I miss mine. I got suspended for a week punching a dude in the mouth after he tried unhooking my bra in the 7th grade. What the fuck? He sexually assaulted you. What the fuck? They should not have suspended you for a week. They should have given you at most an in-school suspension, and then they should have expelled that kid. And the only reason is because they don't want to encourage people to do violence. They've studied and found black labs are the smartest lab. I mean, listen, I don't know if I believe that, but what I will say is Labrador retrievers are goated. There's a reason why they're so popular. The popular breeds are popular for a reason. German Shepherds are goated. Labradors are goated. Golden Retrievers are goated. Dobermans are goated. Boxers are pretty goated. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty cool. Although I don't like the flat face. The flat face thing, like, they can die if they go on a plane and shit. That always scares me. Huskies are pretty... Okay, all right. I'm a wiener dog hater. I don't enjoy wiener dogs. Can I just say that? They're always mean. They're always loud. They're always dirty as fuck. They bark a lot. I mean, maybe I just have been bad luck with the wiener dogs that I've met. Maybe I've just had bad luck. So I'm open to that possibility. I'm open to that possibility. But the ones I've met have always been some of the meanest dogs I've ever seen. Too much like you then, Pago? True. I think most of that is because they're small enough, nothing that bad happens if people don't train them, so they just don't. Oh, okay. I believe that. I'm reevaluating my wiener dog opinion based on, of course. It's the same thing with Chihuahuas. Because they're small, when they bite, people just laugh. Whereas if a Labrador bites you, and they do, like when they're in that like adolescent age, they bite you. Same thing with Golden Retrievers. They bite you. It's not a joke. They really do bite you. So you have to, train them not to do that. Will you be discussing the Luigi Mangione double jeopardy situation? Well, I mean, as far as I understand, there's no plausible way it could be double jeopardy. So what do you want me to say? He hasn't had his first Jeopardy yet. Did you guys see the dog that won the Westminster Dog Show? Yo, she's goated though. Doberman named Penny. I've never seen a dog that's so dignified.
We leave you now with the top dog crowned this year's Best in Show.
Is the Doberman Pinscher.
Penny just uses that presence.
This is how you know I'm a white guy. White people, we like dogs.
And character and confidence, to kind of put it all together. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Couldn't take your eyes off her.
What's Penny's favorite cheat meal?
I think it's the chicken.
Penny chowed down.
Chicken is not a cheat meal. That's like the opposite of cheat. That's like the most healthy, macro balanced meat. That's not a cheat meal.
On some fancy chicken at the
I'm
edge.
black and I love dogs. Oh, I mean, everybody loves dogs. It's not like black people don't like dogs. It's just that white people really like dogs. White people are like, this is my baby, and it's a dog.
In New York.
So what's a typical day like for her when she's not competing?
Oh my goodness, chasing squirrels, rabbits, playing with her mates at home.
What is next for Penny after this? Retirement?
Yes, Penny's going to retire from showing. She will become a certified therapy dog, and hopefully she'll be a mama.
Oh, they're breeding her. I mean, obviously, how much would that... They're going to make so much money off of her. God damn. Of course. That's the whole thing. Dogs, man. I like Dobermans. She's really, really good looking. Like as a Doberman, like that is a handsome dog. And she looks really healthy. It's rare that they give working breeds the title, though, isn't it? Who won last year? That's a recession indicator. Recession indicator is when the working dogs are winning. Not all white people who like dogs trigger violence against animal dog. Okay, well, yeah, obviously there's some piece of shit white people. I was just making a joke about white culture. My heckin' doggo. Like, it's not that deep. Not that deep. I'm just allergic to dogs. Oh, bummer, dude. Bummer, dude. All right, let's watch this. I'm becoming a Graham Plattner head again, chat.
Hey, my name is Graham Plattner, and I want to talk to you today about masculinity. It comes up on the campaign trail a lot. I think primarily because of how I sound and how I look and the kind of life that I live. A lot of people kind of think that I'm some sort of avatar that's going to be able to explain the current problem we have. Now, there's been a whole conversation over the past couple of years, especially in the Democratic Party, about how do we get back young men? How do we re-engage with young men who've been taken in by these stories and these myths, frankly, about what masculinity is supposed to be. Taken in by resentment and grievance. Taken in by this idea that they deserve something in this society and they're not getting it. And that they're supposed to blame women, or they're supposed to blame the media, supposed to blame other people, instead of telling them that it is that grievance, it is that alienation that is driving their feelings of insecurity and sadness. It is driving their loneliness. There's all this talk about, do we need a left-wing Joe Rogan? Or is some Democratic political consultant going to spend $50 million to come up with a media plan on how to approach young men? And honestly, it's all nonsense. It's utter nonsense. What we need to do is we need to re-engage with the idea that masculinity is based around support. Masculinity is based around protecting those who are weaker, protecting those who aren't as lucky, protecting those who don't have the same privilege in this society that many men like me do. We can't just talk about it, though. We have to model it. And we also have to show a politics that is willing to both forgive, but also that is requiring accountability. You can't just go through life being awful to other people and then one day just perform that you feel bad about it and move on. There needs to be some form of accountability. But we also need to be very open to the idea that
I haven't chilled today. Yeah, I haven't chilled in a while. It's fine. It's Vio's birthday, so I'd rather you give subs to Vio, you know? Let Vio have a good day. We're all just sitting here waiting for Vio to go live like, where's Vio? It's Vio's birthday. You need to have a Vio needs a good birthday stream, chat. Tell everyone to raid Vio. Harass everybody into raiding Vio.
We watch people become accountable publicly, have to talk about things that they've said or done, that after that we need to be open.
Chat, I found this really cool Persian restaurant nearby, and it makes a bunch of like Persian food that like, it's nostalgic. It's like home cooked Persian dishes, not like the same old Persian shit you get at every kebab shop. No, I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I've been trying to find like a good Persian restaurants, and I need to make an effort to take Vio to more Persian restaurants because it's Vio's favorite food. And I like it. I'm not against it or anything. It's just, I hope she likes it. And if it sucks, well, then that blows. You know, it's good. It's good. I think for me, I am very schizoid in that I'm very like independent. You know, like I'm okay like chilling out, reading a book alone. You know what I mean? Like, and so I have to like think about like, oh, okay, I need to reach out to people. I need to like play the game of socialization. It's tough for me. And it's not even like I hate socializing with people. I just don't, it doesn't like, my social needs are low. So I have to like think about making sure to make that extra effort. Also, I'm a streamer, so I'm talking to thousands of people every day. So that may rot my brain a bit.
And compassionate and empathetic to welcome them with open arms into a society in which we are not trying to all be split and divided, but a society in which we support and love each other. I know this kind of sounds like wishy-washy hippie talk, but it's not. This is how we build a world that builds everyone up. This is how we build a system that gives every American the chance to live to their fullest potential. We don't have that right now. One of the reasons people feel so lonely and alienated, they live lives that are defined by struggle and work. They don't have time. They spend all this time in front of screens, and often it's because it's just at the end of the day when you're exhausted and all you can do is lay in bed and stare at your phone. If we give people better support, if we give people the ability to have jobs that pay a living wage, jobs where hard work results in a good life. Because right now, a lot of people work really hard, but then they struggle. And it's in that struggle that you find the alienation. It's in that struggle that you find the loneliness. We often decry the lack of community these days. Everybody agrees that community has fallen apart. We talk so with so much nostalgia of this era where communities got together, neighbors knew each other, people had dinner together, went bowling together. There was an age where that existed, but often what's forgotten in that conversation.
Bro, have you tried to go bowling lately? It's fucking like $40 a fucking hour. It's like, what the fuck? It used to be like $1 to bowl. What the fuck? Given the controversy with the Nazi tattoos in response, what is the calculation, the strategy of platforming him? Shouldn't we choose a different candidate? Not that he can't be redeemed, but it should not lead. Well, politics is always about realizing that you can't control everything. Graham Plattner and the Nazi tattoo and the time in the military is obviously a stain on his record from a certain moralistic point of view. But ultimately, I'm not a liberal. And what I mean by that is, like, I accept that people come to you as flawed human beings with things that I morally disagree with and that I don't like. But the question that I have for me is, what way are you pointing your guns? You know, like a lot of people, like, for example, Finland pointed their guns at the Allies. It didn't matter. Maybe they disagreed with Hitler, right? But they were Hitler's ally. And I may not have liked the imperialist British Empire, but they were pointing their guns at the Nazis, right? You know, you're like, well, why do you have this ally? And it's like, well, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes you're going to be allied with people you don't like, but it's for a greater goal of defeating your enemy. And the thing about Graham Plattner is, of all the Democrats, he's been the best on ICE. He's been the best on the intervention in Venezuela. He's consistently distinguished himself with strong positions that I like and agree with. And this is very important, he also seems that people from Maine like him. If he was like a fucking loser and had no motion, well, then I would throw him in the trash heap. But the reality is, I'm not giving him the motion. He has motion on his own. So it's like, do I want to throw this guy in the trash because I want to do moralistic grandstanding? Or do I recognize that he represents pro-Gaza, anti-imperialist, progressive, populist politics? Do you think that the people that did the Chinese Revolution and the Russian Revolution, there weren't any former imperialist chuds? You don't think there were ever any former imperialist chuds who switched sides? It's like, people switching sides is what we want to happen. What are you going to do? Kill them all? Are you going to shoot all the veterans in the head? Like, what's your plan? And if your plan is to shoot all the veterans in the head, who's going to teach you how to use the guns? He ate a lot of shit from left-wingers. And you know what he didn't do? Run to the right. That to me as well is huge.
It existed when we had union. It existed when somebody with one good job could raise a whole family on one income in a household. That's an era in which you can spend time with your community, and people don't feel so alienated and lonely. And today, a lot of young men and a lot of just people in general are taken in by this story that they need to impose their will on other people, that they need to take things from other people to get what they deserve, that there's a finite amount of time and resources and money and attention out there that you have to work against other people to get it. And it's not true. The society that we need to build, where community matters again, is a society in which people have the ability to, at the end of their workday, still have the energy and the time to go out and meet their neighbors, join a group, create art, do theater, have a hobby, join a running group, join a hiking, join any kind of group. But right now, people can't do it and they feel alienated because of it. And we need to be very clear about where that alienation comes from, because it isn't moral. And in many ways, it isn't even cultural. It's economic. It's an economic structure that does not give us time to connect with each other, and from that comes resistance. And we need to rebuild a society in which we support each other and give each other. And that is only going to come in a society where healthcare is taken care of, where housing is treated as a human right, and where hard work means that you can live a good life. And that
I think the way that he talked about his military service is one of those things that is an example of a culture clash between people that are inside who are completely disconnected from any kind of military service, whether that be revolutionary or imperialist or really anything. Because if you study this kind of stuff, camaraderie, esprit de corps, those are the emotions that are manipulated to get people to fight for causes that suck. And they are deeply emotionally rooted. It doesn't surprise me at all that that's the brainwashing that happened, and that's the thing that stuck, because that's just the way it works. That's the manipulation. And even after all of that, he's now coming out and saying it's bad. That's hopeful. He could have ran to the right where they worship genocide as good. Instead, he went against that. That shows me to me, that is profound good news. It's weird when people are like, this good thing is actually bad. I don't know. I think it's just social media. It's like the way social media works, right? Like, you know, you get attention by being super extreme in your statement, and it doesn't even really need to be based on any kind of coherent thought. It's just, I really hate this guy because he's a blah. And it's like, okay.
The full benefits and the full value of the labor and the work that you do. But until we build that society, people will continue to be alienated. And so I say to a lot of the Democrats out there, the more establishment people who for years have been trying to figure out how do we reconnect with men, I'll tell you, I think the answer's in union halls. I think the answer's in solidarity. I think the answer is in an economic system that gives people time to be with each other.
No, this is bad. We should vote for the corporate centrist Israel supporter. It's just like, no, I hate when he's dog whistles the left. I hate that. But he's saying it in a way that even normal people can support. Like, what is with this? Like, I really don't understand. I don't understand the nature of people that are desperate for an L. They want to make everything into an L. This is why you should hate Graham Plattner. Like, okay. Who do you like? Here's why you should hate Graham Plattner. Here's why you should hate AOC. Okay, man. You did it. I saw a Teamsters endorsements of Greg Abbott. What's that about? They're fucking stupid. Sean O'Brien is a moron. He's basically, he's the Fetterman of organized labor. Sean O'Brien is a fucking moron. He's the Fetterman of organized labor, basically, is the answer to that.
That's the answer to loneliness, and that's the answer to frustration and aggrievement. And it's the only way that we're going to pull ourselves out of this.
All right. Well, chat, thank you for coming to hang out with me on the Saturday stream. We're going to call it there. I'll be streaming tomorrow as well. We're on the year of Mike. I may never not stream. I may never not stream. I'm liking streaming, you know? So I may stream every single fucking day for the rest of this year. I think that's kind of the intention that I have right now. I don't know that I'm ever going to stop. Maybe I'll stop. I don't know. Maybe I'll take some days off on the weekend, you know? I'll have to see. I really think about how I do on Tuesday and Wednesday. And like, if I'm able to hit like 6K on Tuesday and Wednesday, it feels like my stream is still growing. You know what I mean? But if I'm not able to hit 6K on Tuesday and Wednesday, I feel like I have to stream more. You know what I mean? You'll get burnout? Motherfucker, you're talking to me. You're talking to me. I have a track record of actually streaming 7 days a week for long periods of time. The fuck you talking about? The fuck you talking about? You see this? You see this right here? These are streams with 7 days a week. And I went to 6 days a week. And then I went to 5 days a week. But I'm back now. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow. Happy birthday, Vio.